even mean? What does
Uh,
being alive mean?
Dude, that's actually a great question. Um, I don't know. Consciousness continues into infinity. Well, until it stops, then it's not infinite anymore.
I feel like that's like a wizzy, like a existential wizzy tweet.
Yeah, I mean, there was like this. I don't know. Living is good enough for now.
Yeah. So it's been a while, and I think the majority of our fan base doesn't know what you've been up to. So how about we start there?
I mean, absolutely nothing. That's you know that, but I guess I'll
I mean,
say
I
that. I
know
mean,
that, but that doesn't help the audience,
I mean, there's it's kind of like the so I stopped at Twitch like a year and a half ago, and then COVID happened, and I looked into some esports jobs. They're all mostly whack and not cool, if I'm being honest. Stuff I don't want to work on. Um, Not exactly a big fan of working at Activision Blizzard lately, based
Hey,
on
you
what I've
could
been
you
around.
could be the force that turns things around.
Yeah, and all my friends who are working at LCS teams seems to be having a great time. And other than other than that, like it's just like okay, there's some jobs are right, I guess. None of these things work on Smashes, which is the reason I'm the most passionate about esports. And StarCraft jobs are all in Korea, which is the other game I care about the most. So it's like, all right, none of these things work. I guess I could do something completely different. But then again, I could also do nothing, which is what I've been doing. I've been playing a lot of video games.
What's on
Um,
your list?
Let me see. What have I played lately? I'm playing LA Noir right now. Um, and then I played what I beat recently. I just beat Talos Principle, which is like a puzzle game. It's like about existentialism. Spec Ops: The Line was recent. Hades. So a ton of games, like single player games. But I'm playing a lot of Melee. Probably the best I've ever been right now, by a pretty big margin actually. I have no idea how good I am right now. I'm like, am I? Can't tell. I could be trash. I could be much better than I know I am. But that's the problem with no ranked, right? Like you just don't know. You're winning the unranked games either way. It's more like how do you feel, you know? And I'm like, I feel better than before at least. So must mean something. But I don't know. Slippy's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't. Do you know the status on ranked? I mean, I might be more incentivized to play ranked or like play Slippy again if like there was a rank mode or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's on its way. It's gonna take forever though. So I hope people are extremely patient with it because it's a lot. It's much more complicated than even ending rollback, which was really complicated to begin with, right? So there's a lot to do, but I mean, I don't want to talk for them, but just be patient. It'll happen eventually. It'll be a really really good boost for the scene.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. Otherwise, like just like kind of playing like not so good players, and I'm just like not really excited. Other than,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how good you are right now. I think you might be surprised at the skill level on just random unranked matches.
I mean, I do play from time to time. Like there's random people that I'm like, whoa, like foxes are fast. That's the one thing like that like really stood out to me in the past. Like just playing every other matchup, I think everyone's like gone like incrementally better. Like there's like the little evolutionary things that come with time, but the one thing I will say is that foxes are really fast.
Yeah, I mean, you play Sheik, so
It's
it's
a,
always
it's
the
a,
one where
it's rough
it's
for
always a bit of a
Sheik.
struggle. It is a bit of a struggle, huh?
Yeah, I mean you can't get away with a lot. Like everyone crotch cancels, so like a lot of little things that you could kind of like chump. Like Mingo says, like chump check people on like back in like 2018 when they quit. Like I just can't get away with it anymore. Like I have to play a lot more clean and honestly.
Right. Um. So I mean, that's nice. And there's definitely people who are playing a ton of Slippy. Like that's the thing, right? It's like people's hours are jumping up a lot, and so you're seeing them be more clean and more precise. Uh, some of those same people don't have the best ideas, so they might be better at executing really bad ideas, and so it could be frustrating to play those people because you're like, man, I actually feel like this guy has no idea what he's doing. but they're doing shockingly well, because they're actually hitting me really hard and they're doing the things that they need to do really well. And those are very odd opponents to play, but they're very common nowadays.
And like less freebies, right? Like you hit somebody, they're gonna crouch cancel and punish you. So it's good to see that it's finally getting to that level. But we're not talking about Slippy here. I mean, I think the interesting thing about this episode is, right, it's there's numerous things we could talk about, but I think one of the biggest, I guess, current events of the Smash sphere is really just the talk of, I mean, the biannual talk of like Smash Summit and Spirit Bombs and money, and like how dare the summit take money, and then it kind of has a circular discussion, which I don't feel like we've had in a while. So I felt like kind of be a good topic to talk about today. Just like the money in Smash, like you and I have seen the money in the scene for like the past like decade. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think, let's see. I guess I'm trying to figure out what the starting point is, and somebody just mentioned to me that I need to change the room to or the Twitch label to Melee, so I will do that right now. But like, where do we even start with this topic? Because I think we can attack this on so many different angles and perspectives, right? Maybe we could start with the Alpha Zelot tweet, right? Or no, we'll start with the Alpha Zelot tweet. And if you guys don't know the tweet, it just basically Alpha Zelot highlights a lot of the people who were former main leaders, tournament organizers, event organizers, Smash. And then I think he makes the point that there's a massive brain drain over the years because everybody has effectively moved on to other games, other esports, or just moved on from Melee just completely. And his hypothesis on why that is just there isn't enough money for a person that's that needs a career to sustain themselves to remain in Smash. And so, interestingly enough, you were on that top 10 list at number 10.
It's funny. People like in random Twitch chats, Twitter, I can't escape from getting Kirby jokes, right? But what people don't understand is that doesn't bother me at all. But getting listed 10th on this fucking list, that bothers me. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I should have enough self-confidence and self-worth that kind of stuff shouldn't bother me. But stupid list that was put out on YouTube once, I've never heard myself ranked 10th on something like that. I've heard plenty of people discuss about, who are the best TOs of all time. I usually end up somewhere in the top 3, but 10th I saw, I was like, oh.
Okay, so you just mentioned top 3, as what other people say you are, right? Where do you think you are?
I think I'm first. I think I'm like a clear first.
On what? Well, okay.
I think I'm an obvious first. I'm an obvious first.
So that's
my opinion.
So our audience will not think that is the case. And people are just,
won't they?
Well, I mean,
if I list you the resume, if I actually
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. What's your resume? What's your justification for clear hands-on number 1 TO?
It's like obvious goat actually. But
okay, why is it so obvious?
I don't like doing this because it's a bit egotistical, and I'm not known for that.
No. You can't walk away and say I'm the best TO of all time when most people will have a vague idea. Like, we all know Jordan won 6 championships, right? A lot of people don't know what you've done.
Thing is, it's not great to talk about it, but okay. So let's just.
But okay.
But if you want me to, all right. Okay, I can start with the list. And I'll probably forget a few things, but
I'm giving you. Okay.
It's pretty ridiculous.
I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to sell your case, starting in 5 seconds.
I
4, 3, 2, 1. 5 minutes to make your case.
Okay. So 4 Kings of Cali's, 60 SSS's, which is the greatest local series of all time, hands down. No other TO on that list has ever ran a local series even close to that. The TMTs, both online and offline, so weeklies in SoCal, plus the current largest online series. Kadorn's helping run that, but it's still, Team Moxie as an organization. 200-person online events during the entire quarantine era. Just chill, that's fine. There's Mango's Birthday Bash. There's 4 PAXs. There's Battle of the 5 Gods. There's Holiday Bash, the Twitch Invitational. Again, the 4 PAXs include the PAX Arena Invitationals. That includes the Music King Leffen final on PAX. There's stuff like helping save Apex 2015. There's stuff like running the Smash calendar for years. There's stuff like bringing Beyond the Summit into the scene, and DreamHack into the scene through behind the scenes work. There's I'm probably missing a lot of events I've read is the thing because I always forget a bunch, but I think the only two people who you could even argue would be Joe Guy and Sheridan because they've run bigger super majors than I ever have.
Okay, so
But they're at like they're that puts me at top 3 minimum. I don't even know who else could even be there.
okay, can I ask you a question?
It's just impossible. It's like it's not even a fucking reasonable comparison. It's like you're comparing like Mango to fucking Axe and bless Axe's soul, but it's just not. It just doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's fucking stupid. The fact that I even say this it means that the capacity for the community to make fun of Blur has gone way out of hand. Like, come on. It's an impossible argument for me to be 10th. It's impossible.
I mean, can I ask you a question?
What?
How many of those tournaments ran on time?
I hate you. I hate you. Just because I have a propensity to milk some views and I want to stream more matches doesn't mean that that doesn't even make me a greater TO. You know? In a way, that probably means I have the most minutes watch of all of these motherfuckers. You know? That's fuck them.
You know,
I didn't mention the Blood for Blood series. You know, that's another 2 events there. Dude, I'm probably missing like literally a half dozen events.
I mean,
that's the fucked up part.
You know, you indirectly contributed to me not aspiring to improve in Melee anymore. Because SSSs used to run till 1 a.m. and I had work at like 6:30 the next morning. So I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I quit.
Yeah, keep talking that shit. Point is, look, if you put Joe Guy Sheridan in the above me, I wouldn't even complain. It wouldn't have bothered me if I was 3rd. But 10th? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
What if I said you were like 4th?
And I mean, if you especially add the community leadership shit, like as in if you add all the behind the scenes stuff that no one sees, like the stuff that I don't even talk about half the time, it's just 4th. But who's 3rd then? There's no argument. Like there's no argument for anyone to be to even be 3rd in the. It's just impossible.
Gamer and Nintendo.
Nintendo is who I would normally rank 4th. Gimmer, I mean, he's usually a broadcaster, so I don't usually put him in the TO camp. But I mean, I guess if you count his streaming accomplishments,
the locals, Xanadu's.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like Tantalus. If you're like, he's the streamer, and Tantalus is usually
okay. That's not fair. You can't say Tantalus for Gamer and then say Kodoran's running your SSS and then take credit for that.
Yes, you can. Because do you want me to talk about Kodora running TMT? And I bless his soul. The graphics package was one I sourced years ago. Before I helped him with TMT was getting 18 entrants, and now it's getting 200 plus. I started consulting with it, helping, telling what he should change the format. We took multiple long calls. Yeah, he runs the bracket, but like, come on, like he'd even tell you that like I had a big part in it. It's like it's not. It's just wrong. Okay, and JD may list some names. Okay, so I just listed some of the events I've run. Let's talk about Nintendo by comparison. Bless his soul. So he wasn't the head TO of Apex 2015, but he had a large part in saving it. So did I. So equal credit there. Then he was head TO of Pound, but like he was again not the head TO in the sense that he was more of a running the bracket, but again it was VGBC also running it. So Tant was doing ultimate. And he was more the melee guy, and he was the head melee TO of Super Smash Con. Also great, but Justin Wykowski is the head event director of SmashCon. So he has a lot of partial credits. Great. He also helped out with the PAX series, as being an assistant TO. A lot of partial credits. Not bad. But like, how the fuck does that compare to what I'm talking about here? It's not close. It's not close. It's not close.
Okay.
Aiden, great. Aiden did a Don't Park in the Grass, and he's done some work with Summit lately, especially with Main Stage. Like, I just listed like 40 events. I listed like half the majors in the scene's history, and they all include me. What the fuck, bro? You kidding me? Like, what does it take? I just listened like half of them. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Alrighty,
I don't know.
you got your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
It pisses me off. It doesn't. It's just absurd.
Okay, so let's decide the larger point that Alpha Zealot was making in his tweet, that like these people who were substantial figures.
No. We have to back up a second. On that video, they have Alpha Cell listed as 5th, right? Again, above me, above plenty of other people. Do they not know that JV and M3D were the ones who were the TOs in most of the MLGs? Alpha Cell came in later and wasn't really a TO. Was owner of Smash Wars and kind of like work with them and of course did help with the events still, but it wasn't like, are they just giving him credit for all of MLG? Like, do they not know any history? Does no one know any history around here? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, the whole thing was just, like, so wrong. I'm just like, you just didn't look anything up. Ha! But I appreciate all Smash content, and I appreciate shoutouts. I just dislike being ranked 10th very much. And I think they're great people. But don't put the Blur 10th. Top 3 minimum. That's all. That's all. Jesus.
So, anyway, I am going to put up his tweet just so that people aren't going to be like, what are they talking about? So let me get that on the stream overlay. I'm just going to put it up, and I'll also read it. Let me just add the image. Image, just an image. Okay, add a new source. All right, there we are. I just got it on the stream. So pretty much he says, lost in the drama, like the Smash community suffers from a brain drain because it's entirely grassroots. Imagine if all these people could be full-time operators and content producers or of a developer-backed Smash League. So what do you think about that statement?
I don't want a developer-backed Smash League, but I get the general statement of the brain drain. In fact, I made a video about it once. Well, it was part of the video about Smash's strengths and weaknesses, and this was one of the weaknesses. I consider it one of our biggest weaknesses. We can't retain talent. We still, like, some of those people still kind of mess around and do Smash stuff just because we're bored or like we like Smash so much. So we don't lose everyone 100% usually. Like, I have a feeling, and I could be wrong. It could be like when people speculate that Armada might come back and he hasn't come back. That guys like Aiden he'll just run something eventually. You know, he'll just get it in his bones. And I know for me, like, there's been plenty of times where I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna do any of this anymore. And then like a year later, I'm just like back at it again. You know, back up to no good. And so, having said that, you do have a massive brain drain problem. These people just work in other esports and other games, or in other industries entirely, which has become more common as esports jobs have become lamer and lamer.
Yeah. I mean, I think the hard part is this, right? Like, you start off in Smash, like your young 20s, like, yeah, money is always going to be kind of important, right? But like, it's not going to be as important as like when you have like kids and all that fun stuff. So like, I think most of us probably started in our young 20s, like we're college kids or we're just out of college. We have a lot of time and we can spend a lot of our like extra hours just like putting into Smash, and it's a good resume builder, right? And I think for me, and I imagine for a lot of these people, and why this happens is when you're 20 and you're spending 40 hours a week doing this stuff for fun, and you find out that you're rather good at it, it's fine, right? Like, you can do this for free or next to no money or even lose money. I'm sure you lost money. I've lost money like running Smash events. But when you're like 30 and you're just like trying to date, you know, you're trying to move on in life, you're just like, ugh, like I can't keep doing this. And I think that's at least where like I kind of, the crossroads was for me, and like kind of moving on was like, I can't spend this amount of time with like this little payout, monetarily speaking.
Yeah, I mean, if there was universal basic income, if you know, there was a world where people can actually pursue their passions without worrying about the bills, you know, the constant stress of capitalism, then maybe. But the truth is that people aren't left with a choice. it's not much of a choice actually, just with the way the world works. And so you either spend all your time doing this stuff for free or you don't because you need to eat. And so yeah, that's the thing. Now, having said that, like part of the problem is that most of these people do their most seminal work in their early 20s, or like that's when they do a lot of the work that we know about. Um, except for I'd say Sheridan, Robin, and most people it stops there. Like they usually don't go on and continue doing it until as they get older. Um, and there's I think the three people listed are mostly just crazy people, and they have no reason to be doing what they're doing. But it's mostly, of course, people who love the game a lot. But nonetheless, it's like there's genuinely no reason if you're 30 plus to be running Smash Brothers tournaments. Um, and so when people do their most seminal work in their early 20s, that's when they have the least amount of experience and the least amount of knowledge of how to scale the businesses. And this was part of my response to this tweet, which was basically like, look, it's kind of like a half and half, right? Where we're saying um, a bunch of these guys never were able to have sustainable businesses such that they can apply their passions. But also, they were in the worst time and position in their lives to build sustainable businesses and didn't have the expertise required to make it sustainable. And so there's part of it where it's like we probably could have, and many of us have had opportunities to like make it so that it was a scrape by living, or at least okay for us, or maybe have more ambitious plans. But it's a lot of work for singular persons, and I think there's a reason why no one's been able to kind of break out and make something that actually like has legs to it and has decent structure. And besides that, like there's always the specter of like even if you did, what if Nintendo just comes and shuts you down, right? So it's like pretty tough sell. Notably, it's a pretty tough sell to outside investors because you talk to an outside investors about stuff like this, they're like, "Wait, so you want us to like give money to something that doesn't have publisher approval?" It's like it adds skepticism to the whole thing. But
Wait, I'm kind of curious. How often do they come to the conversation knowing that like Nintendo is Nintendo, or like do you have to educate them in their questioning where they go like, "Oh, did you get developer approval?" And then you have to say no, or like do they come up front and be like, "Yo, we know Nintendo's XYZ."
well, usually the people that would even be remotely interested are esports endemic, or they know a little bit.
Yeah.
That's often the case. I don't think it's that big a deal, but I also don't think you really need to get outside investment to scale a business in Smash. I think you mostly could do it if you really wanted to do it. You could do it through loans and through just growing organically slowly. But it would take years of losing money, and it would take lots of sacrifices for what in the end it would be a pretty marginal low growth business, right? Like the business you would end with is a pretty crappy business that you would be doing literally because you love it. But it could be enough to maybe help pay for life, which is what anyone wants. Like most of those people on the list, I was really annoyed at both how Reddit and Twitter responded to this for a couple of the comments. Like there was people who were like, "Oh well, what's the big deal? Like some of these people like worked on Smash stuff 10 years ago. Like maybe they just moved on with their lives. Like what's the big deal if they moved on with their lives? That's just normal in any industry." And it's like, bro, none of those people wanted to move on with their lives. Like I know those people personally. I am one of those people. Like that's not the problem. The problem is that they were forced to move on with their lives because it wasn't sustainable, right? And that's the core problem.
Yeah. And I think it's like interesting, right? Because just for like kind of transparency on some of my finances, I think there's a year where Smash was starting to gain momentum, and I was doing the content creation thing. I was getting paid out to go to some events. I did some Zero to Hero campaigns. Got started to get paid for freelance, and then I think in total that year I made $8,500, right? And to a young 20-year-old, that might be like, oh shit, like that's a lot of money. Like a lot of players don't even get that. But then when you factor in how much I have to travel, the amount of work I had to put in, the amount of articles I had to write, planes, the freelance opportunities I had, they wanted me to go out to the events to cover it, and they didn't pay for any of that. For SSBM rank, which I got paid for, I actually paid the majority lion's share of the money to the people who helped out with that. So I took a little bit as like kind of like where I barely made minimum wage. I would say I netted negative $1,500 in spite of like grossing $8,500. Like I went down like $1,500 that year in like
That's
Smash
pretty much.
related endeavors.
Yeah, and I mean, $8,500 for your peak of Smash earnings, um, is like in terms of a year is pretty crappy, right? Like that's not a living wage, or close. And I can tell you, like I've never earned more than 20K a year on Smash Brothers, right? Like that's just never happened for me.
And you probably
Um,
put in at least like 1,000, like 1,000, 1,500 hours, right? So like you're barely making like $5 an hour.
that you think I've only put $1,000 into? No, dude. It's like I think I put in like 20K plus hours
I mean, in like a year.
in 1 year. Even more than that, I'd say. But yeah, I think most years at least like 2K hours.
Got it. And you're making
I would
like,
assume.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like, look, I almost always had a job while going with that. Now, if you want to count the time I had a Twitch job, which was specifically a Smash job, which I think you should count, then of course I earned a lot more money than that. But specifically from like freelance and independent Smash stuff, yeah, no, never made more than 20K in a single year, and that's pretty normal. And so like, pretty much I work anywhere and I can get I get offers of 150K plus to 200K. So it's like I'd have to like sacrifice $180,000 potentially a year if I wanted to just be a Smash guy. Like I don't know. I mean, I guess it's more money than like what I'm doing now, which is literally nothing. But it's also not that much different than than literally
yeah,
nothing. So you do it because you love it, and that's it, and that's it.
yeah,
Um, and there's really no going around that. You just do it because you love it.
yeah. I think the hard part I'm trying to reconcile with all this, right? Like everyone who's doing this is doing this because they love Smash. They love the community, or else we wouldn't be slaving away for this, right? I think the one thing I don't like about this is that how it's become a subtle expectation that if you want more money than that, like you're seen as this like greedy, not to everybody, but like some people may view that as like, oh, this guy's like a shill, like he was just in it for the money. And like I hate that we've normalized people volunteering thousands of hours for like no money as like the standard. Like you can only truly be a TO or a community leader or an event organizer if like you're not really making that much money. If you make over this arbitrary amount, like you're just draining the community and you're selfish. Like that's the vibe I get sometimes. Not from everybody, granted, but it's
Oh, I mean, I think there's definitely a general vibe of looking to TOs slash quote unquote community leaders. I hate that term and I never want to be called it again in my life. But nonetheless, for people looking at those people for all the answers.
yeah.
When if you know anything about Smash, you know that like we're all just kind of regular people. And I wouldn't mind being called a community leader if I had actually any tools to exercise that community leadership. Like literally shows like this and connections I have within the scene of just like talking to people is my quote unquote power. Like I don't have any, right? Like and maybe at a certain time, a point in time, I had a lot more influence than that just because of a position at Twitch and access to a little bit more money and like whatever. But like even then, like I wasn't the publisher. Like I'm not Nintendo. I'm not like I'm not. I don't really have the ability to solve some of these problems that I think people would look to me for. And so it's like and I think there's a funny contingent of TOs who feel like they're on the outside looking in, where they're like, "Oh, I'm not in the in crowd of like the super old school TOs who are really leading the scene, right?" And it's like, bro, no one's leading the scene. You're actually just missing the point. Like, no one's doing that. That's not a thing that we have. And like, it's just a huge far cry from like, let's say, like the people at Riot and the ability that they have to influence their scene and be able to dictate how certain things go. And so, not only is it like, do people have an expectation that those people would be greedy for making money. There's some people who would say that. I think the vast majority, hopefully, that's turned around. I think the response to the Parappa tweet shows that like a lot of people are on the right side of that. But I also think like there's just an expectation that those people, well, they expect a lot out of them. They expect them to be a moral authority. They expect that, there's a lot of finger wagging that you'll see over and over again. You'll see, oh no, how could a community leader say this or do that or whatever? It's like, bro, if you want to hold someone to that standard, you have to at least give them the tools to accomplish what leadership means, right? Like
Yeah.
if the person you're talking to is like just another Smash Brothers player, just like you, and actually has really no authority except outside of their own events, then you're just talking to another person. That's all it is, and so yeah, I don't really think there are community leaders in the scene. I
Yeah.
think it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense, like that people are using the placeholder word for influencer or something like that. Outside of like when you're TOing your own event, and at that time you have marginal power to begin with, you don't really have much more influence than any average smasher. Anyone who's on day one of the scene.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like interesting because like I think a lot of people who are like like on that list, for example, like probably specialize in one skill set, mainly because it's probably what they study or like it correlates to somewhat to like their job they did, right? Like your computer programmer, Rob, was a IEOR, like industrial like engineer. Sheridan's like a statistics operations dude. I'm an engineer. Like we all come in with like a certain background, and it's like always funny because like this is kind of like side tangenting because we have community issues, right? And like I want to help the community, and sometimes I'm busy with like league and CLG stuff, and they're like, "Aren't you gonna comment on this?" Or like, "We need you to like." I'm like, I don't know what to say here. Like I can tweet, I can retweet, but and I'll show my like solidarity or support, but like at the end of the day, like I can't do much more than that, right? But
Yeah.
I think the part that's like interesting, right? And when a younger and understanding that like the ultimate community is younger, I'm not gonna say that they're like 10 or 13 in a condescending way. Like they're just young. Like they're 15, 16, some of them are a bit older, right? And when I was 19, I was like, like I don't like, and this is coming from living in California. You know how expensive California is. Like, I told myself, like, if I make 70K, I can raise a family and like, send my kids off to college and like everything will be all right, right? And like,
That's a good joke.
I was so like naive, right? And I think when people look at Summit getting like what, like 60, 70K, it's not even like profit revenue, like because like that 70K also factors in flights, distribution costs of those things, production costs, commentator costs. Like they probably don't take home anywhere close to that. But when somebody sees like 70K, they're like, wow, that's a lot of money that these guys are taking. So, and like the reality is that doesn't really spread too far at the end of the day, right? Like for a whole production team. But I guess where I'm getting at is I don't really blame a person like Parappa like naively saying like, wow, that's like a lot of money they're quote unquote like robbing, and maybe I'm not giving him that they're taking away from the community.
Look, it was a bad take. The way that Twitter works is that someone says an opinion, and now it's apparently everyone's job and their mother to respond to it. Like, it breeds negativity to the way I see it. It was like the guy had a conversation with Aiden. He had like a phone call with Aiden not that long after he made that tweet. He learned a lot, and he was like, "Yeah, sorry for posting that." Like that's literally the resolution that ended up happening
Yeah.
from that. It's just like one random Smash Ultimate player had an opinion, and so we had an entire day of discourse with like literally probably 3,000 plus comments of people shitting on it. Like, I don't know. For me, like when I read stuff like that, I'm like, what value does this add to my fucking life, bro? Did he end up apologizing? I don't know. He definitely like said he learned a lot and that it seemed relatively cordial, JDMH. But the
Yeah.
point overall is that like, dude, we're now making content about his tweet, right? Like it's a common opinion. Because what I saw was he made an opinion and 3,000 other people said this is a dumb opinion, right? Like that's what I saw. I don't know about you, Tafo,
I
but
mean,
like
yeah.
what are we even doing here? It's like so everyone in the world has to have the same opinion. Like this guy made an opinion, it was a bad take, whatever.
Yeah.
Like let's fucking move on. He doesn't have any like notable influence. He just put out his opinion out there. Other people corrected him.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
not that
think
big a deal. It's just not that big a deal.
yeah, I mean, I think the meat of the thing of why I wanted to bring it up is right because it comes up every summit, right? These tweets, and I feel like there's enough people that don't really know about like the financial aspects of melee of Smash in general and like running grassroots events that I felt like it was a good topic, right? The core,
Yeah,
the core end of this, right, is like, yeah, like calling it a scam was probably not his best take, and like him having
yeah,
the numbers off wasn't his best take. But at the end of the day, like I'm pretty sure he had some sentiments that are fair discussion points, which Aiden mentioned, right? Like, how do we get other local events like up in revenue, right? How do we make sure that other organizers are taken care of, right, and not just Summit? And it seems like watching Parappa's tweets, he was just like, how do like Parappa's tweets, from what my understanding of it, watching it, was like, how do like he's asking on behalf of the community, like, how do we carry the same energy that we give to Summit to like other organizers that like deserve it, right, or like in his view deserve it, right? And I think that's a fair question, right? Like, how do we monetize better as a community? I think it's
yeah.
a good discussion.
I think it's look. I think it's a great jumping off point for talking about stuff. I more so mean to say, I don't want to take it to a point where we feel like his opinion is common, because if anything that thread showed is that it's not. It's actually was pretty resoundingly trounced.
Yeah,
So I don't think everything he said, like, there could be marginal points that are being made here and there. For example, the summit voting process is very stressful for everyone who participates in it, and that's annoying for anyone that's in it, right? Like, I've seen people like be extreme have extreme anxiety over having to like run a campaign like that. It kind of takes over your life. It's, and you think about it, you're like, this what it means to be a professional Smash Brothers player? I guess that's sort of lame. Um,
yeah,
and the answer is yes, it is what it means. And certainly, I think that the fact that our biggest prize pool in the scene is an invitational, which not everyone can participate in. That's lame. I think it'd be interesting. Like, certain ideas were suggested if some of Summit's prize pool went into main stage, like basically like you just cut off a bit from each summit prize pool and you pump it into main stage. Not a bad idea, you know. And then you have an open event that also has a larger prize pool, and you make it a little more even, so that open events can participate. It also makes it so that people feel less forced to be a part of the summit campaigning process, which I think could be good for people who don't want to put themselves through that. Like, again, these aren't terrible points. I think especially if the summit voting process grows, it's been pretty stagnant and steadily growing, if anything, uh, in general. But if it grows to be a little too disproportionate to the other events in the scene, then you could definitely see top players only entering summit events, right? Which is a thing I think could be worrisome. I think you're seeing it sometimes in Melee. Like, if you go to Mango's stream, he'll call just about anything and everything that any time where Summit isn't hosting an event like the next weekend or the next or in 2 weeks, he calls it the off season, right? And I think a lot of TOs get annoyed by that. There's like, it's always the off season, huh? When Galen's hosting their tournament this weekend, like, it's an online event, but it's like, that's still the off season to Mango, That's still the off season to some players, the way they talk, right? Just because Summit's not hosting it, because Summit events are bigger prize pool, right? And I think that could be annoying because it's very centralizing, and we want to have a more diverse and equal calendar.
yeah,
Um, Fair criticisms, things to think about, whatever.
yep.
Not really how he made his points, but they're fair criticisms.
And to add to this, I have to give kudos to Aiden, for doing that phone call. I think we need more of that. Also, kudos to Leffen and Mutaking, out of all people, for supposedly hashing out some things in the past on DMs. I wish we got more of that energy in Smash.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Sure.
I just feel like I need to shout that out because it's usually shout and shoot from the hip, and then take the subtleties second, right? In how our dialoguing usually happens.
hmm I mean, that's I'll take the progress, right? Usually Leffen calls people out on Twitter, so I've been telling him for years that I would love it if he reached out privately first, and to see him do that once is kind of a miracle. So we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I think the other part, right? You mentioned earlier, a lot of this, and I've alluded to this. So, Smash community, a lot of us effectively were good tournament organizers and bracketeers, and like for a lot of people in that list initially, right? And most people aren't businessmen. Like, they're not really going to be particularly spectacular at sponsorships, partnerships, networking in that kind of capacity. So, like, what do we lack and how do we get better, like, right? Like, because people say that, and like, to what extent is there even potential there, like understanding Nintendo?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm godlike on that front. Those are the things I think I'm the best at. I think I'm worse at the bracketeering stuff potentially, though I'm still one of the best at that. Godlike. But the reason I say that is that I think actually the problem is that if you need a situation where everyone works together, you don't need just one person who's good at those things. You need like a lot of people who are good at those things so that they all come to a good agreement. Like it's really hard for someone who does business to like make people take good deals, because people are just going to be making things hard for you. Blur W alert. It's true though. It's so fucking true. I what was effectively a business development job for 5 years. Like, I mean, come on, it's not like straight garbage at partnerships and stuff. It's like that was literally my title. But nonetheless, forgetting me for a second, dude, I've been talking with myself too
I
much.
feel like I'm just like I'm just like walking into this, like I'm just setting.
You are, you are. I'm sorry. I had to get it off my chest.
Okay. Put it this. Let me
But
ask another question
yeah,
then.
yeah.
So like historically in the past, we've run on shoestring budgets, right? And so I think there's this like expectation of the negotiation where it's like I have this story that I think presents this well. I get invited to IGN. So at the time I lived in SoCal. IGN reaches out to me. They're in San Francisco, so obviously they said like, oh, we would like you to fly out and do a show with us, right? And that means I'm gonna have to take a day off. They're like, oh, Mike Ross is gonna be on the show. I'm like, oh, I love Mike Ross. Oh, cool. And then they asked me. They said, we'll provide hotel. We'll
The
provide,
Coca-Cola one, right?
yeah, the Coca-Cola one. And this is where it's you bringing up Coca-Cola also heightens the naivety that I had. So they asked me, we'll provide your flight, hotel for a night. How much do you want for this event? And
You probably said nothing. Why don't you talk to me? I could have told you.
I said, I don't know, like 150 sounds good.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Tafo. I'm just. Jesus
And
Christ.
because I'm like happy and like I'm like, ooh, like, because Vicky was in NorCal at that time, and I was like, you know what, like,
You probably got a sad response. I don't even know what your response was, but I bet it was them saying, "Actually, we need to pay you more, literally, for tax purposes. Like we can't pay you that
so
much."
yeah,
Is that what?
they actually got back to me and said, sorry, that amount is too low for our records. We have to give you $500, and that's when I knew I messed up.
That's how you messed up hardcore. 500 is horrific, nonetheless. But yeah, bro, that's
I mean, to
bad.
me, it was a fantastic day, right? Because it so happened that the recording was on a Tuesday night at 5 p.m., which meant that I got to hang out with Mike Ross, do the show for 1 hour, walk over to the Foundry, which was on a Tuesday, meet Vicky, hang out at the Foundry for a night, and then go on a flight the next morning, right? So I'm like, wow, they're paying me for a vacation that I would want to do, but wouldn't want to spend the money on. And that was my mindset, right? Not understanding the business.
Right.
Um,
Um.
but I guess where
Not.
I'm getting at with the
Yeah.
story, right, is we've run on a shoestring budget, and I imagine, when somebody walks up to another tournament organizer that's historically just not profited from their events, they like get volunteers, are like, we want you to run this event. We want it to be like this. How much do you need for this, right? And somebody goes, I don't know, 500 is good, right? We're like, realistically, for another esport or for another group, it would probably be like 25 to $40,000, right? Like, so I guess what I'm getting at here is how much have we screwed ourselves up in these kind of like negotiations? Do you think?
Not much because there haven't been many of them. Like what you just described is a pretty isolated incident.
I mean, there's
I
certain
don't.
tournament circuits that like I'm aware of. in both the Ultimate Smash 4 scene and in our scene that I feel like there's horrendous, but I guess we don't have to call them out.
Oh, yeah, no, that part's true. Um, yeah, I mean, look, again, it's not distributed equally. Like I said, there are some people who know how to run things, and I don't just mean myself, but it's mostly me. But there are some people who know how to do the business side. It's a very small number of people, and most of the people don't come in for that purpose. But and this is where I didn't want to respond to this because it was a very nice response to the Alpha Zealot tweet. It was a very wholesome response. Um, so Alan from Panda Global basically said something along the lines of, well, we should just, be looking to the future. I know that he basically said something like, I know that like some of the stuff hasn't been done well in the past, but you know, I think back then we didn't have the expertise or the knowledge, and now we might do better going forward, right? Basically, a very positive sentiment, which I think is, I hate to say it, wholly inaccurate and just sugarcoating the truth, right? Sometimes optimism is really bad because it just means you're not being objective about the truth. Um, and the reason I say that is because we've known what we needed to do for years now. I think the level of expertise is not that different now than it was like 4 years ago. Like it's roughly like I haven't learned anything that would change my opinions of what needs to be done. Really, if you watch this show, you can watch a 4-year-old VOD, and it's almost the same thing as I'm going to say this episode. Like it's not really that different because it's the same problems, the same solutions. I can give you guys some new cool ideas maybe, but they don't really change the core values. Um, that hasn't really been the problem. It's about like actually going out there and doing it. It's about getting everyone together, putting your egos aside, maybe taking a few short-term losses here while building for a long-term thing there. Like those are the things that we need to do. It's a lot of work. But yeah, no one's doing that. Like, like it's I don't think like we have like all this new knowledge now. It's like, well, what knowledge we have, like some people are stopping TOing, like the Aidens that we mentioned, and then others people are getting really really jaded, like I'd say myself and a handful of others, such that like they're tuning out. And then okay, maybe there's some others who've learned new things, but like, what are you trying to suggest that like Sheridan or Robin are like that much more intelligent now than they were 3 years ago, that they're gonna like change what they do?
Well, I
I
mean, I
don't
think honestly, the peak of TOing was back in '07. Like, there were moments in that year that, like, unfortunately, what
oh
happened
seven.
was those moments weren't really recorded, but there were like a couple events that just ran like beyond peak. I'm just memeing.
Oh yeah, oh, you're talking about music games. Music
But
gaming.
I will say this, right? Like, there are new TOs, there are new people like that are, because we're not. This show isn't just about the Sheridans and the Juggle guys. I'm sure that maybe like not every viewer who watches this is interested in TOing and it's like really passionate, right? But I do feel that there are enough people that forget or are just flat out ignorant but are interested, or maybe even prospective TOs that are kind of like asking these questions but don't know how to find these answers, right? And so that's why like I like revisiting them.
Yeah, but that new generation has to restart, right? Like they have to learn from the, like, let's say the Kodorans, the Rona Rumble people, like you go down like the newer crop. It's like, so if anything, if you're gonna add them into the mix, you're like, we actually in summation lost knowledge because those guys have to learn from the bottom up. Like I don't understand why we think we're different. Like I don't know why knowledge and expertise is the thing that we think we're lacking. I think that's not what we're lacking. Like we're lacking many other things. But I think we've known what to do. At least I've known what to do. I've said it on stream many times. I can give you guys more ideas if you want. But like I don't
I
think it's a
mean,
mystery. It's what
so
needs to be
like
done.
I guess the next like if someone's playing Occam's Razor here, right? Like if knowledge isn't an issue, they're probably gonna ask like why hasn't it happened then, right? That's the natural
Yeah.
fault. So like, what is that?
Yeah. Mostly ego, fear of Nintendo, and um, an unwillingness to make long-term bets. and an aversion to risk. Most of those are the main reasons. An aversion to risk, um, and ego is probably the two biggest ones. Yeah.
So what you're
But
saying,
fear of Nintendo is the one that's legitimate, and then if that's where you want to pin it all and say we've done good considering the circumstances, I think that's completely fair. But if you don't, then it's the other things, the other reasons.
so what you're telling me is we need to convince Ludwig to funnel all his money, and then because he's so, I don't know how much money he makes, presumably a lot, that he is at such a life stage where losing a lot of money would not matter so much. So we need to go to Ludwig.
If you more generalize, yeah, some of our homegrown angel investors who would give money to the scene for a percentage would be interested in giving money to a cause. I think the worst thing, the most naive take, something that someone I'm sure in chat was thinking, if I could penetrate you guys' brains, is the idea that we don't have money. Right. That's a naive take. That's one that please do not make, because there's a lot of people out there who want to give us money, or who have money, either within the scene or not. That part is not true. What is true is that we don't have people who are willing to go and ask for it and willing to go and make the risks necessary to make those things a reality. Right. A guy who would be willing to angel invest in Smash might be willing to give 50K, 100K for a Smash project, but most of us are just like too chicken shit to actually ask for it because we don't believe in our own visions and don't want to make those kind of plays, bro. Making the big plays.
Okay, I think this is where I think it's a little unfair because you have your sister who you have connections to that have normalized, asking for investment money. I'm going to bet that most people in this chat and most people in the Smash community do not have that experience to know even like where to start with that. Frankly, like I'm not well equipped to do that, right? If you ask me to raise 500K in investment money for Smash, like even though I'd want to do it, like there was a lot of growing pains I would have to go through to learn what it's like to pitch to venture capitalists and angel investors, right? And I imagine most people don't have that expertise or experience that have been fairly normalized to you, just to kind of give other people a little bit of credit.
Sure. I think that's true. So maybe that is expertise and knowledge of doing that. But then again, there's like a bunch of 20-year-olds who've started companies and they didn't know what they were doing and they still did it. Bro, and by the way, I don't think we should be going to venture capitalists. Like venture capitalists are the stuff that we're doing is way too small ball for this. I'm talking about going to actual angel investors, people people who would actually give money to a Smash project. Sometimes in small amounts or whatever to get it off the ground. And I think that would work. And it's literally about making a fucking deck. It's not that complicated. You make 10 slide deck, tell them your idea, be like, yo, would you give money for this? Here's what you get. There's you Google it. There's plenty of boilerplate ones. You don't even have to hire a lawyer for how you can set up these sort of things, instantiation docs. And that's all you got to do, right? But like again, it's an aversion to risk of actually making that kind of stuff happen, right? And similarly, like not just that, but like it's the most successful pitches and the ones that would actually work require you to put aside your ego. It requires people to work together, and that's been very difficult for us historically. And so like most of the time, and I mean people again, this is why I meme on the whole community leadership crap. It's like for the most part, most of us don't really talk to each other on a day to day, right? Like there's a few discords I'm in that have like the big TOs and stuff, and they kind of talk to each other sometimes, but like nothing really happens, bro.
I mean, isn't that largely because the vision for most of those people like is just I want to run a major, and it doesn't really go beyond that in terms of like I feel like for most people like most people started on the track of I ran my own local TO, local event, local weekly to hey, I want to do something extra special for my local scene. Let's run a major or like a regional that turns into a major, right? No one, I feel like most people who kind of go under this track don't have that visionary kind of lens to go like, I want to create a circuit or like, I want to create this worldwide thing, right? Because the progression of people who get into this as quote unquote leaders only really go to that scope. So like I
Yeah,
guess
maybe. I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't think any of them are like, I don't want to grow the scene, but certainly I think that many of them they resolve themselves to be what they are,
yeah.
which is doing a ton of work for no money. But it doesn't have to be that way.
You're saying that
And
there's a better way.
there's been better ways. And okay, so take a step back. Everyone always is like, okay, so what are the good ideas, Blur? You say you're so fucking smart. What are the good ideas?
I'm
Okay,
trying to spoon feed you like the questions, and you just need to squeal.
I just
So
need to squeal, right? Okay, so I think there are four major ways for Smash to grow, period, really, that I've thought of that are like pure, like multiplicative amount ways of growing, right? There's a few other ways of like growing 10, 20% year on year. And then there's these four, which I think are probably multiplicative, right? And they all have their own problems. So nothing's perfect. There's the obvious one, which is a circuit, which I've gone over many times. I don't know if we don't have it. You guys might think Smash World Tour is that. Sure, whatever. But anyway, that is that's one of the four. Very hard to get together because it's hard to get TOs to work together. Um, if I go through the reasons why this thing hasn't happened and why it's been hard for TOs to work together. It's hard for a circuit operator to make money. If you just do a small balance sheet of what they would have to give to TOs to be a part of it, it's hard for it to make money. And there's the constant broadcast rights war that's going on in the scene between BTS and VGBC that drives up prices, making it harder to to uh, to control it all. So that's one of the four ideas. I don't want to go on that one too much because everyone knows that idea. The second idea is a funny idea because people are gonna laugh at it. But I've said this for like 5 years now. But I don't think I've ever said it on camera, which is um, for Smash to effectively have a coin of its own, right? And this is like a crypto idea, but it's one that I believe would work quite well. Um, which is to say, okay, so what does Smash have as one of its powers, one of its benefits? Well, a lot of money has changed hands in Smash, so um, we don't have a lot of profit, but we have a lot of revenue. It's a lot when you add it up, actually. Um, and so basically, if you actually add it up, there's actually millions of dollars in entry fees paid out in an average year in Smash. It's actually a shit ton of money. And so a lot of the way people evaluate the value of a currency is by how high its transaction rate is and how much its throughput is. So if we transferred um, a lot of what we do, including crowdfunding, including many other aspects, into a generalized Smash coin, I think what it would do is to drive outside investors to look into that coin and look into its benefits, and then they would be like, okay, well, it has a use case here with a large audience. Um, Maybe that's something that would get us outside investment for people, as well as prove itself to be a crowdfunding mechanism because anyone who owns that coin also has a stake in its growth and therefore kind of investors, quote unquote, in the entire Smash scene, right? The main problem with this one, JDMH is pointing in the chat, is that it's very hard to convince the community it's not a scam. But you should look at around you and notice that crypto's huge, and there are many successful cases. Tafo, you have your own rally, for example, right? Mango has his own rally. Hugs has his own rally, and those do very well. Those have earned more money for people than other things, all added together,
Yeah, I
right?
just
So
coincidentally loaded my rally on that.
yeah, I don't think people understand that these things make money, right? And you can be a big crypto skeptic, but um, if you look at the generalized Smash community and just how much the transaction rate is and how much use case that we have, you can make it so that it is an extremely appealing coin and one which we can raise outside money in with relatively easily, in my opinion, right? It would raise us a lot of money, right? Without giving up anything, really. We would just give up percentages of a coin that we didn't have before. And so I think it's one of the big four ideas. I know crypto, people get all fucking spooked out, but it's not really that big a deal. It would work. It really would work. And the main problem is how to sell it to the Smash community. One of the things you could do to alleviate that problem is you could build a backend where basically people don't even notice they're using the coin. Like you don't need everyone to get a MetaMask to be able to basically enter into tournaments. You can make it so that like they're transacting in dollars from what they're seeing on, but then it gets on a back end, it gets turned into the coin and then into an Ethereum contract and then it comes back. But anyway, that's one of the 4 ideas, right? So another pillar is just a big crypto play. And yeah, that would genuinely work, and you would get investors into it. I do believe it would. So that's the second one. What's the third idea? The third idea is weird because I'm talking about how to grow Smash, but the idea would be to not have Smash anymore. One of the best ways to grow Smash is to not have Smash anymore, which is to have a reverse engineered version of our own game. Now, this is the biggest idea by far. This is the one with the highest upshot. It is the one that would provide the most growth by far, but is the hardest to execute. That is to say, what if we, basically reverse engineered Melee into a carbon copy with different IP, so that we no longer have the Spectre of Nintendo to work with, right? Like if we basically had the same game with different IP,
Yeah.
and we're able to add a whole bunch of new features and stuff, and we were able to carry over our fan base, right? So that's a very big idea. I think most people understand that would change everything, literally. But it would it just the execution on it's very, very difficult. Making a game is tough, and getting people over would be tough. So that'd be a problem. But maybe it'll work. And the fourth one is more related to Slippy, which is for Slippy's growth. Dumplings about to come in. And the fourth one is more related to Slippy, and that's more like building monetization features within Slippy such that, and not, I should say within the Slippy launcher, such that it earns enough money to be reinvested back into the scene, and mostly reinvested back into Slippy itself. So, I mean, things like being able to pay for a custom tag, I think is just the start, and hopefully that user base that gets transferred from Slippy, become like its own monetary base, like any other digital game, and that does all right. But unfortunately, that one has a major negative, which is you're very worried about monetizing Slippy because of Nintendo. And that's always you're worried about basically the more money you make there, the more attached you are to the IP, and the worse it can be. So the clone is easily better. So it's like basically four fundamental ideas that would actually be like big upshot moonshot ideas for Smash, and the 4 ones that I don't think I don't, unless I've missed something, I don't think there are any other 4 big ideas. But they all have their own problems. I think they would all work, but they would just require extremely good execution.
What do you think is the most likely, given the state of the community, personal resources, strengths of our leaders?
I think the most likely is none of the ideas happen.
I mean, if you had to bet on one, right?
um, yeah, none of these ideas are gonna happen. But if I had to bet on one, yeah, no, I don't think any of them are gonna happen. I just like they're all like sub 2% chances, like of ever happening.
I mean, I think
Um,
2% is pretty high now for some of those.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it basically just takes someone to do it and convince people it's a good idea. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're all
So,
very good. They're all very good ideas that would work, in my opinion, and they're much a better use of your time than just like running a one-off event, in my personal opinion. If you care about growing Smash, But they just take a lot of work.
So Blur, I'm gonna call you out because
So
you're telling me all day, all stream, every time I hang out with you that you're the guy, and here I hear your jaded nonsense of how hard it is, how defeated you sound. You should just do it.
do any of these four?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Big Guppy says, "Why don't I create Smash Coin?" Because I think I would get shit on. Big Guppy, I think it's a good idea that I would get shit on for, and that's what stopped me. It's the aversion to risk. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of these problems. I'm saying I have an aversion to risk of putting myself out there and saying this is a thing that I believe in, and everyone should
Hey,
switch.
let's learn how to do smart contracts and create our own coin.
Yeah, that's what I'd be proposing. I say you make your own coin. One cool thing about the coin one is payouts would be guaranteed. Like you can make Ethereum contracts such that and immediate, so you wouldn't have to start bug TOs anymore about getting your money after you win a tournament, and that's pretty fucking dope, right? Like it just immediately happens, and like you can use that money to enter into other events without having to reprocess through payment fees of like PayPal and shit. So that's pretty nice. No more grimy TOs that can steal your money. I think that part's cool.
And
Um,
hopefully the electricity energy costs go down.
Hopefully, right? But yeah, I mean, like you just saw me say the point here, and it took a lot of nuance and explaining of why I think it would work and would actually be a good use case for Smash. But like announcing something like that on Twitter and shit like that, like I don't know. It would. I think it would raise a shit ton of money for Smash. But I don't know. Like fuck, man.
You just got to do
I
it.
Yeah, well, why don't you do it, Tafo? How about that?
Because I already got Bud Light Ace like a month ago.
You got what?
I got Bud Light Ace by CLG a month ago.
What does that mean?
There's a cooldown period that you can only take, right? And I already got I got shit on by the internet a month ago, right? So the cooldown period hasn't passed yet, where I can do a crypto coin and get away with it.
uh, but yeah, I mean, like this is what I'm talking about, aversion to risk, right? So uh, to some degree, I have tried each of these ideas to like my own little small going out there and seeing if they're possible. But like, there always comes a point where you have to actually like do it, and they're scary ideas, man. They're they and you have to like basically actually go ahead and do it. But I think I don't know. Do you have any more, Tafo? Am I missing any other big ideas that would like multiplicatively grow the scene? Do you have one? I gave four. Do you have one, Tafo? You're on the show too.
Ludwig, moist critical, Ludwig.
It's like a fucking 14-year-old.
What?
I'm talking to a 12-year-old here. Yeah, is that the idea? The idea is just naming a streamer, bigger number, better people.
I mean, they're already interested in Smash now.
Okay, so you're saying get them as angel investors for what though? What's the idea? I don't. They have money, right? But like, what's the idea?
Uh, I feel like they would be of enough stature that they're gonna just say like, I mean, you already kind of see this in other games with the developer relationships, right? Like, I think of Asmongold and like Activision Blizzard, right? Like, we jokingly say that it's iSports, not esports, right? Like, I think using influencers like overcomes a multitude of barriers if they're big enough, right? We mentioned the Nintendo thing, the Nintendo like kind of the boogeyman as the boogeyman. Like these people are so big that if you get enough of them, it's like I think you overcome that barrier and you can use them as a means to do whatever you want executionally. Like even if
So you're
you,
saying Pog Champs for Melee?
yeah,
That's the idea. Oh yeah. I mean, that's a good one. We've talked about that before. I, I
yeah,
think I
but then
think
you
I think
can,
that would. I don't know about the word multiplicative with that,
but like
but I think
they
I think it
were,
would grow us.
but if you have enough of them, right, and there's momentum established from the influencer space, like it kind of it can implicitly create enough momentum where people are going to be less risk adverse, and the boogeyman Nintendo doesn't seem as big, and like people are just gonna be like, screw it, like we have so much momentum here. Let's just fuck Nintendo and do it anyway.
We could definitely do a PogChamps. I think one hard part about doing a PogChamps with Melee in particular is that it's hard, and people don't want to look like chess might be hard, but you can play it as a noob and like learn it for a week. I don't know, Melee's a little harder in that sense, but you can still do an event like that, and I think it would do all right. And certainly, it would grow us. I don't think it's multiplicative. I think we would grow some percentage points from it. Max 10, right? It's not going to be like an insane.
I mean, how much is the Smash World Tour really moving the needle for us right now?
I don't think it's one of those 4 ideas.
Got it. So, I mean, I think you and I know that, but can you elaborate on like your circuit idea?
Yeah, it's all of the Smash organizers in the world coming together, or just a large enough percentage of them coming together for a point system. Redo it. No more PGR. No more of that. Well, you can still have it running, but point is that the main rank system would be similar to tennis, where you basically have a rolling ranking system where each event gives out points, very similar to Tekken World Tour, very similar to the Street Fighter stuff. And you get points for going to each event, and then it rolls into a final event, which is an open event with some floated bracket system. So that's and there's a lot of nuance of what can be done there. Like I think you would integrate locals into that where they opt in, and they even count for points. Basically, every event counts for points. I think you would make an online weekday content around that. That's like more than like just TMT style stuff, but stuff that works with that. I think you would do Slippy integrations. I think you would, of course, have an ultimate product that's like basically parallel to it. You would do stuff like have a weekly show that recaps the league, like the whole kit and caboodle.
Um,
And that would be what that would is.
how do you?
But
I was actually kind of curious. We brought up AlphaZilla. What do you think about like the Pokemon year annual format, right? Like as like a skeleton based model, right? Because they have locals, states, regionals, cities, like right, and you get championship points that like leverage towards the end of the year worlds, and then there's like last chance qualifiers and all that
yeah.
stuff. Do you like that as a skeleton?
I
Like,
tend to not. No, I don't. I mean, I think it's good for their scene. I'm saying for us, it's not. I think for Pokemon, that's actually a great system, but for us, it's pretty bad. Um, I don't like to criticize SWT so much, but I think part of the reason why it's hard to get invested into it is it's very regionalized, and I think no one cares, right? Like I don't know about you, but like I don't think like if I made a investment into building Smash content, one of the things I wouldn't do is like really give a shit about an Oceania final because it's just not going to hit that good of a viewership count. It's not, right? And I think people don't care about regionalized content. They don't, right? What people seem to care about is much like tennis, where people like Wimbledon, people love the U.S. Open, they love all that shit, right? And so you need to focus on what's actually good and interesting, right? Like, I think there's going to be the hardcore fans who really care about who the best in Central America is. But I think for the
I
most
work
part,
with the Melee stats guys on a daily basis, so
yeah,
that's
they give a shit. But I don't think that's the like. W- w- why is it better content for it to be regionalized? It doesn't make sense to me,
well. I
right? Like,
mean,
why is it a better system? Why is it a better system? It doesn't. It
can I
doesn't.
ask you this? Because like
Yeah.
when we look at tennis, right, we assume that there's like enough people with money to go around, right? Like if you look at like Oceania and stuff, right? Like how much does it matter to you about some degree of representation over them, or do we just kind of put this minimum?
Still, you can still have representation.
How does
You
that
don't
look?
have to. The, you let they can enter into the majors too, and you can have majors in their region. You can like the U.S. Open and Wimbledon are in different countries, right? Like you can have events in a global system that doesn't necessarily have to have a feeder system from regionalized events, right? Like just look at like how much regionalization has made League of Legends less interesting, right? Like
Hey, do you take that back about my NA region?
yeah, well that's part of it, right? It's like There's just like fucking 10 leagues, and who gives a damn about CB LOL? Like I don't. Who cares who's the best in Turkey? I guess the Turkish viewers, like, they do well simply because there's so many people who like League of Legends, right? But like, if we scale that to Smash, and we started having Turkish leagues, it'd be like, bro, you're getting 10 viewers. It makes no goddamn sense. It makes no sense if we did a similar thing with Smash, right? Like, soccer can get away with it. Like, soccer has, a Premier League, it has La Liga, it has those. But that's because soccer's the biggest sport in the world.
I was just
Right?
gonna ask, like, how much do you think it's
it.
because you already answered my next question. I was just gonna ask, like, how much do you think it's just because, like, it's so big?
It's so big, that's why, right? But like, we can't get away with that. We can't regionalize our content. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like the end of the day, like, it people want to watch like the primary storyline of the scene, right? And the content that does the best. So you have to build a system which optimizes for minutes watched, for viewership, right? Like, that should be your fucking North Star. It's like, look, the way to monetize this content is through sponsorship sales and through broadcast rights sales. So I should build a system which optimizes for viewership. And so that's what you need to do. And so build content that people would actually care about and watch. Like, it doesn't really, like, it should be pretty obvious, right? Now that doesn't mean like local content is valueless or anything like that. Like, you know me, I like made a like SSS. I care about this sort of stuff. I think there's a good way to do it, and the blueprint is out there for people. Just watch old SSS, and if you're a TO, and just do that. That was the way to build a good big local. But that doesn't, like, if you're building a global structure, that doesn't mean like you base your system around this regionalization. So anyway, I don't mean this to be, again, a criticism of SWT, but just a more generalized thing of like, there's a big difference between what the pillar of idea I'm talking about with what's being executed right now. That's all.
That's fair. I'm just like reading through the comments.
Super Strict says, I assume regional hype feeds the bigger events. No, why would you assume that? What is this assumption? You think because there's a Central America final, like, people are gonna care about Mango Zane more or less? Like, the fuck? Like, maybe...
Okay. I see where he's going. I think the hype. I think this would work. Like, if there was an even distribution of skill, right, and there was a Mango and Zane in every region, right, like, then you get hyped over all the Mango Zane level players coming together. But I think in Melee's environment, that isn't going to be the case.
Yeah, that's not how Melee works, and that's just generally not how Smash works. That's not how individual sports work. Like, their good player can compete at more important events. Bro, their good player is going to get 17th at best, right? Probably 33rd or worse, right? Like, you're not going to see their good player for more than a match or two, right? Like, realistically. And I think that's cute, and that's dope, but how about you just have more major high-level content? Because that's what people want. Like,
but I mean, didn't you just say, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, I mean, like, to what extent do you have to have a balance here? Because the other part of it is, right, like, we postulated earlier, like, if Summit got too much of the revenue, that's a bad thing. So, like, where does that line draw for you? I'm kind of curious.
I don't understand the question.
So we were talking about monetizing like Summit, right, in our earlier discussion today, where like Summit gets, I don't know, let's say 150K of like community funds, and granted they sell stuff, and I think you made a comment saying that there probably needs to be a balance, and if Summit took like all of the money, it would be bad. But like, to be fair, like, they are also the tournament that seems to have nailed the content with top players the best, and that's why a lot of people put money into them.
Okay, but what's the question?
I think where I'm getting at here is, right, like, we want to see Mango Zane, we want to see those best sets, but it seems like here the trade-off is we're effectively ignoring. I guess what I'm getting is, like, where do you, to what extent do you have to start valuing the little guy, right? Because if you just said it out loud,
you value the little guy. like you have events in the region they can enter. We have open events, bro. Like open events is valuing the little guy.
Okay, but but it's not equivalent, right? Like if I were in Oceania and most of the region's tournaments were in another region, then chances are that little guy is not going to get fairly represented, right? We see this issue a lot where if a region has a lot of the tournaments, like there's going to be a lot more people from them, and like the people that just can't afford to fly to all these events are just out of luck.
I mean, I think first of all, you do a healthy amount of major events in each distinct region. You count locals, like I mentioned, like local events should count for points, and then you have a second tier events that are like below the super majors, which you would give the most points to, which are in more regions and more across the world. They would still have to fly out to events to really get a high point count, but I mean, like, fuck, man, you have to earn it. Like, I don't think that. End of the day, I hate to be harsh. Like, even if it's you have to swallow the fact that it wouldn't be a as easy a road for certain people internationally. You need the product to succeed. What matters the most is this a good product? Is this the best use of your resources? Is this worthwhile? And that's what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need something that people want to watch, man. Like,
and to be fair, like I largely agree with you, but I'm just more speaking on behalf of like fleshing out your opinions just so that the audience knows like where you kind of stand on things.
we don't like our fucking 10th player in the world like can barely scrape by. What are we talking about the little guy for? Like, legitimately, like, okay, you can care about the little guy once the order of operations is done. How about we make sure like our 8th best player in the world can put food on his table, right? Like, it's nonsense.
It's fair.
Is Blur saying make the bright spots in Melee brighter than eventually other inspires other regions to develop? I think you just do both. You just do both. You put money into the bottoms up and the top down, but primarily a larger league structure is a top down structure. We have a lot of bottoms up growth mechanisms. We have locals everywhere, right? We have tons of bottoms up growth mechanisms. One thing that top down brings you is structure and prestige, and that's one of the things that we need desperately. Anyway, that's one. Look, that's the idea everyone sticks to because it's always the sexy idea that it's probably not going to happen. But the other three ideas I think are genuinely arguably more realistic. Weirdly enough, just harder to execute. Well, all of them are hard to execute.
I was going to say, I mean, if they weren't hard to execute, it would be probably done by now, right?
Yeah, we'd already done it.
We've already been done.
Too many Falcons. I think melee pog chance is inevitable. Yeah, maybe, but I mean, I would never use the word inevitable with anything. I think a guy like Aiden will make it happen eventually. He just will do it. But I never like using the word anything inevitable in Smash. Really, nothing happens in Smash Brothers unless someone goes out and does it.
But that's usually inevitable.
Someone usually enough people like it that it usually does happen. But these ideas, the ones I'm talking about, they're not inevitable at all. Like I would put odds on that none of them happen. And they're the ones that actually bring multiplicative growth. Like, is someone really gonna stick their neck out and and switch us all over to a Smash-based crypto? Yeah, I don't know. Seems like everyone would be too scared to do that, too worried about their own brand, etc., etc. Is someone really gonna go out there and unify everyone and put some investment in and like do all the things necessary to make a circuit that's true and combines everything in the right way? I think that one's maybe the most realistic, but at the same time, like I don't see any forward progress on that, so probably not. And then the game idea is just that's really hard. So like maybe someone will do that, but that's really hard to do well and to do right. It's just extremely difficult. The Slippy one, I don't know. It really depends on how much Fizzy and Co are willing to poke the bear with Nintendo. Like how much how good do they really want to make Slippy? Right? Like I don't know. I think it could be pretty scary to make it a little too good. If it's too good, that might be a problem.
It's it always sucks because the one scene that encapsulates like all this is like Melee in the end of Incredibles 1 where Dash is running in that race understanding that he has superpowers and like he's running and his family's like no you can't go too fast, oh wait no not too slow, and like he ends up getting like second place to just like not stand out.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? And Jiggy's points out that esports is going in the direction of crypto anyway. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, dude, crypto and betting is like where a lot of esports money is coming from. Like, okay, people could be as scared as they want to be, but TSM's getting FTX contracts,
You know that
right?
all started with like a DM supposedly between like the FTX creator and Reggie.
I know I don't want to leak conversations, but I know exactly how that deal happened, and it makes me want to throw up. Makes me I hate the world
The
actually, Zach.
short TLDR was that it was a lot less sophisticated than most people would imagine it would be for a deal of that size.
The TLDR of it all is Reggie looked at him, and or the guy looked at him and was like, he likes League of Legends. How he asked him, hey, how much? How much? Reggie put out a ridiculous number, and the guy was like, sure, done. And it was over a drink, and that's the biggest deal in esports. That's how it happened. Chill, fine. It's okay, man. But no, let's keep ignoring crypto. It's like, fine. Half of the world's billionaires are gonna be crypto people, but not us, of course. We're just not gonna. Not us. Can't be us, guys. It's got to be everyone else, obviously.
Here's my like one venting thing. It feels like we have, and I understand, right? Like I'm not where I stand on things. It's like I think people deserve to get paid, right? And going back to the analogy of like the 16-year-old, like I've met 16-year-old people within the scene that says like society is messed up when you see somebody gets paid even more than like 100K. Like somebody making 100K is contributing to like the evils of capitalism in society from smashers
What?
that I yeah, and I, like there is
100K?
the
That's the bar?
I mean, I
That's the
think there's
bar,
just
bro?
this like idealistic thing, right? Like I at the end of the day, like there are a lot of tenets of like things that like in America, I'm not gonna go too deep, that I think are messed up, right? I think everybody should get health care, right? Like stuff like this, right? Like um in an ideal world things would happen, right? But like we're so it feels like we're so adverse from like there's this almost like purity tests on like outside investors, anyone coming in. The like I'll bring up like Thunder's Gaming, right? Like Thunder's Gaming made like no money, and they probably dumped like $50,000 to $100,000 minimum, and people went away with them like being scammers, right? Like oh, like these people are taking money from the scene, and it almost feels like at a certain point it almost hurts us to have this mentality to like absolutely like to have this like purity test with everybody that wants to spend money on Smash and be like oh like these people aren't smashers or like these people are inherently evil or and that is always one thing that has kind of bothered me and I think it that creates like that trogs us back. I don't know if you feel this way but I feel that too because there are a lot of people are just like yeah, like I love Smash, and these are people outside of Smash and like who are like esports enthusiasts. I love Smash, but like I hate dealing with the community. It's like kind of purity tests, like whether it's like content creators, people who want to put money in the scene, or prospective tournament organizers. I kind of get annoyed with this like sentiment that we have as a community.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, Thunder Game was ran really, really bad.
It was. I
Um,
mean, you can complain that they ran
I was a
poorly.
commentator. They paid me. And I, after doing it one time, I was like, I'm never doing this again. And I said that to their face. Uh,
But I wouldn't
because
call them like taking money from the community, right? They were just poorly ran.
no, they just didn't know what they're doing. But that's a problem, right? Ultimately, the thing that we want is we want people who know what they're doing, and hopefully people who are endemic to the scene to run everything, right? To do it all, right? That's theoretically one. I do think there's an aversion to outside people that's very healthy because there are scammers in the world. Um, but I think that aversion can also be from the inside, where it's like now we're just afraid of big ideas. I think like we're so like you mentioned, like there is a I don't know how it happened or when it happened. I'm kind of proud of it because I'm pretty leftist in my own political beliefs. But a lot of us a lot of the Smash community, at least it feels, maybe just from reading Twitter, are extremely left leaning, which means that a lot of these like extremely aggressive capitalist ideas maybe wouldn't be received as well, right? Like extremely aggressive, maybe ruthless business practices that would need to happen to really grow in a capitalist world. Um, I think a lot of people would be miffed by that. You're like, oh, you're hurting the community, all this crap. It's like, bro, you know, that's capitalism. Like, yeah, do you think Jeff Bezos didn't step on a few throats on his way up the ladder? Every single rung of that ladder was like someone's face, to make it happen.
And like realistically, we're not trying to like we're just trying to Robin Hood money into the funnel money into our ecosystem, right? So
I
that we
think
can be remotely sustainable.
I think you could do it in a relatively moral way. But I'm and I don't want people to go around stepping on people's faces, but I more so mean to say that there and young people out there are listening. There's like a limit to how you can take your ideals and optimism and how you want the world to be, and you know where you can take that into like how you actually apply it in your life. And I don't mean to say don't throw away your ideals. I more so mean to say like, bro, you do live in a capitalist world, and you can't just be sad all your life. You got to make some money. You got to actually like do the thing. And there's no glory and there's no pride in being Poe.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I
like
think it's like I think
that's
it's
not.
set. I think it's like I don't want us to be, and this is just on like the years of volunteership that I've seen and the years of suffering that I've seen other organizers and people take. It's like it shouldn't be a badge of honor that you suffer 10 years of negative income and putting in 10,000 hours and you have no meaningful finances to show for it. Like I hate that that's a badge of honor because that's to me that's just sad. Like I think these people deserve money. Like they deserve to get paid for their excellent work. And I think the larger community I think takes it for granted, and that's what makes me sad.
Yeah. But again, I think like the more macro level of it is okay. Um, yeah, people are worried about individuals who are more money conscious, like basically who are more in it for the money, and I think that's fine. But the more macro level is they're worried about ideas which look like they're more money minded. Right? Like the crypto idea I talked about is a very money idea minded idea. It is literally a money idea. It's an idea about money, right? And it's like just the thought of trying to pitch that to the Smash scene seems terrifying. And the reason behind that is because Smash would look at it and be like, "What do you mean, money? Money in Smash? Boo!" It's like, ugh, bro. Whales give out money for new coins every day. Why not us, bro? Hashtag why not us? I don't understand. Like, what world do you think we live in? I don't get it.
I think I think overall like I think the large part here that we're trying to there's some people conversing is that there's for Shuma, right? Like Summit is the great middle ground, and I don't even think that's the case. I think Blur and I are of the fundamental belief that if Summit is like the peak of Melee, and that's all, like in a world where we can dream and envision the sky's the limit and it's Summit. Don't get me wrong, Summit's great. I like Summit. I'll support Summit like monetarily, but if that's the peak of what we think is like the absolute best we can do, I think that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
And what I think Blur and I are talking about here is that with more resources, when like for me, like I think it just logically makes sense if somebody's putting in 20 to 40 hours of their fun time in their young age and they're growing knowledge and they're good at the resources. Like I think out of principle you give them more resources and see what they can do with it rather than see them leave or see them struggle, right? Like and have to make these conscious tactical decisions in their lives of I can maintain what I have, which is this little small pie, which is like one major a year and some locals, and that person can't in their life state do much more than that because their resources and their time is fundamentally tapped.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that we have Big House and Genesis forever because Robin and Sheridan are actual crazy people. It's possible. They just keep running those till the day they die. Um, but I wouldn't take the entire scene for granted. I just like I don't. I think you got to look at it and be like, okay, how do we actually multiplicatively grow? And yeah, we're doing pretty well for a 20-year-old game. So we have to be like a little congratulatory, but I always get nervous when people are a little too congratulatory about our scene because it's like I want more, and I think we can. I've always thought we've had a lot of potential to do more. Our audience is huge, especially once you add Ultimate. The audience is huge. There's a lot of people who play, a lot of people who care, and you think you can monetize that audience. You think like that should be a thing we're able to do, right? And a lot of big ideas have happened in the scene that have made major differences, right? Um, and some small ideas have made major differences. Like I would call making a documentary a small idea compared to some of the ideas that we talked about here, right? And that made a major difference in the scene, right? So maybe some multiplicative ideas are small ideas, and we just don't realize it. But I'd say some big ideas. Like I think Smash GG was a big idea that probably led to, I don't know about multiplicative, but at least 2x growth in the scene. Like I think Smash GG was a big deal, right? And that's a big idea to make an entire platform that hosts from the bottoms up our tournaments and our events and all that stuff, and eventually it gets sold to Microsoft. That's a big idea, right? So it's not like we're incapable of big ideas succeeding, um, but it's things like that are hard. Like if you told me to like today remake Smash GG from the start, like I'd be like, damn, that's hard. Like that's not easy, right? But we haven't have gotten that one done, and it goes to the credit of those guys, of course. But Slippy was a big idea, right? I think Slippy's a big idea. So we're capable of big ideas. It's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, and I
But
think
yeah,
to add to the macro scale, right? Like our leadership team has naturally brought people that are doers, that people like want to start tournaments at the local scale, right? Unfortunately, the way that our scene is brought up is that we don't really have true visionaries, right? And unfortunately, I think part of that is the perceived cap of Melee. But if we can expand what the perceived cap is, right? Like if I'm a visionary and I think more in the macro, big picture sense of things, right? Like you look at the state of Melee, what you can do with it. It's not like we want to bring that perception up and hype up the potential so that we can get visionaries and people who can execute on visions into this space. We have a lot more people who are more tactical thinkers. The visionaries are going to other games. And granted, they might do it partly for the money, greed, but like, I mean, partly just bouncing off Blur, like, we do lack visionaries that it can carry out larger scale things, and we have a lot of more smaller scale people. And so that's why, like, I think creating this image and this like kind of and unloading the ceiling, like I hope that one day that maybe these discussions bring in people that can think and execute on that way.
maybe, bro. I don't know. I feel like if we're able to have these ideas and able to have these discussions, and I don't think like our discussion is unique. I think other people maybe are able to have them. I'd say we have people with the knowledge and the quote unquote vision to do it. I just think it takes the gumption. I think what we might have visionaries, the quote unquote, but we might not have people who are either in a stable financial spot to do it or are willing to risk their place in the community to do it, right? And part of that comes with like your entire social network being tied to the scene, and so you are naturally afraid of that. Um,
Yep, for sure.
and part of it comes that like a lot of people have like large embedded histories. Like, let's say if Robin went out and did any of these 4 crazy ideas, right? Like, if it fails and he has a big egg on his face, like all of Big House kind of looks like shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it affects his reputation dramatically. And same with any of these other guys, right? Like, people have a very high opinion of the people we're talking about. Um, and would that be the case if they fail spectacularly, which is a completely likely thing to happen with any of the big ideas that you can actually do? Yeah, I think they would have a very different opinion of those people. And I think that's sad because it stops people from doing the big moves that we need to make. We need to make big moves, right? We need the small moves of like here and there, like that's nice, but like we need to make big moves. And I think people are afraid to make big moves.
I mean, I
Big
think that's
plays.
like partly. I think we were kind of saying the same things at different angles. Like, part of me like wants to remove those barriers of risk, right, as much as we can. Granted, like we can't remove everything, and I think part of it is like how can we kind of shift the narrative around like the general public to like believe for something greater, right? So that we can, because I think a lot of people look at Melee or like and go like, yeah, I think it's fine. Like it's like we're doing so great, right? And yeah, like for a 20-year-old game, we're doing really well, right? But like I want to see more. You want to see more, and like I think it's important for us, like even just in this kind of show, to go like, yeah, like there is more that we can do. That there is a higher ceiling that we can aspire towards.
How do we change that culture is a good question. I think, um, yeah, it's a good question. Like, how do we? It's like a chicken and egg problem, right? Because I think people would be more comfortable making big plays if they were more financially stable to do those big plays, right? Like, let's look at Smash GG. Why was Smash GG able to happen as a big idea more so than some of these other big ideas? Well, Sean, the guy who started Smash GG, was former Zynga, and like he was a former executive at Zynga, who happened to like Smash. Very random. You wouldn't expect it. He actually first tournaments he was a big fan of SSS. Good to know. So partial credit. Add that to the legacy. But nonetheless, um, like he was in a spot in life where he can make a big play towards something he really cared about. And I think that's it's where passion meets opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but I think like some of these guys who have like normal jobs, just very average middle income people, um, scary to make big plays. It's scary to go and find investors. It's scary to do all this sort of stuff. And now I think like they're wrong, and I can say that logically, but I know it scares me to make big plays, for sure. And also like people have been mentioning it, like part of they're saying Nintendo's 99% of our problems. Part of the counter argument to everything I've said so far is that look, man, you're overcomplicating it. Nintendo's the problem. Like, end of story. Like, and I think that's a fair point. But also not true. Because if that logic persisted, then we wouldn't have gotten here so far. Right? Like, they're bad. But I don't think any of those 4 ideas like can't happen despite them. You know what I mean? Like, I think many of these things could still happen even with them around.
I mean, I think 2 years ago, like the idea of Slippy would have scared everybody. Like, no, 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 you can't do it because like it's Nintendo. Like, how will we do this, right? And we have Slippy; it's existed, right? Or like a lot of the ideas, if we knew what Nintendo was as the boogeyman in 2018, and all the ideas we've executed in the past 3 years, like I think if we go back in time, everybody like, no, 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 we can't do that, right? We can't do Slippy. We can't do this. Like, I
Turns
think we
out,
could push the envelope.
so I always use this example. I'm like, if you had told me before Uber happened, right? The idea, right? And this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar business, right? Like this is going to be a humongous business. I would have been like, that can't be legal. What is the idea? The idea behind Uber is that strangers who do not have a taxi license pick you up from the touch of an app. There is no screening process. They just pick you up on the side of the street, and then they take you to a location that you entered into the app. I would have been like, that's probably illegal like 7 different ways. I know there's taxi unions and lobbies in every region. There's a ton of regulations around it. There's no way this business is like could work. Like Uber as a business, I would have immediately been like, before it happened, if someone had told me the business idea, I'd be like, bro, yeah, obviously that would have a huge market, and I don't doubt it on a business level, but I think like you just can't do that. Like you just can't. But I think the history of business shows is that like most of the time you can, because the law is a little less like a little less preventative than you naturally think. Like what's Nintendo gonna do to stop a Smash coin? Absolutely nothing. Can they stop a new game? No. Right? Like that's a whole new game. Could they stop Slippy from making monetization features? Okay, maybe that one. Maybe. Could they shut down a league? Yes. Will they? Well, they haven't shut down SWT, and they haven't shut down a lot of other things. So question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know. They could definitely shut that one down, right? But like the point is like there's definitely a contingent of these ideas, at least a form of these ideas, which is more resilient to them. And there's definitely been true that like part of it's baked into the risk, right? Like baked into the risk of any big idea in Smash is knowing that Nintendo can shut you down. Why do running any tournament has a risk of Nintendo shutting you down, right? Like and so yeah. Dilipov says Uber is actually losing billions, not making them. Yeah, but that's not how business works, right? Like Amazon lost a lot of money too. Uber's a good businessman. Well, the guy who made Uber is doing well. Is more accurately. You know what I'm saying? Losing money is the way to make money at these big scale tech companies. Capitalism makes no sense. As long as the valuation goes up, right? As long as your market share is going up, as long as your valuation is going up. Yeah. So yeah, I mean I think that's like that's part of it, And so to I guess wrap a lot of what we're saying up in a bow, there's a degree where I sympathize with my fellow TOs and people like me and others of like, damn, did a shit ton of work, don't have any career prospects out of it, and we didn't make any goddamn money, right? Like I sympathize, but to a degree, right? And the reason I say to a degree is because I think we all did just enough not to make money. I think we all did exactly enough to not make money.
Do you think
Right?
it was just because we were just scared of what that would
I
mean?
think, yeah, exactly. And I think we did exactly if we multiplied the amount of work we did and we did it smartly, I think we could have made money and we could have done more ambitious ideas and many of the ideas I said here. But we did just and the thing is, if you do exactly what we did, you'll make no money. But if you did it a little bit differently and with a little bit more ambition and a little bit more risk, then maybe you could have made money, right? And so my sympathy only goes that far, where it's like, look, kind of sucks, but yeah, you didn't make money running local events for Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, you didn't make money running major events for Super Smash Brothers, but you need to go even higher than that. Like you need to actually go for the big play, and you didn't go that far, right? And I think that's where the opportunity actually is.
I don't know what to say after that. I don't know how to follow up.
I think it's a lot of money, by the way. Like, I think even with multiplicative growth, like let's say the league idea, right? How much sponsorship sales can that get really? Like even Tafo, you work in esports. Let's say every single event in Smash Brothers came together, right? And there was a finals event. What do you think the sales potential of that thing is? Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Just say numbers.
Let's see. I think
you know esports sponsorship sales, right? Like, how much sponsorship sales money could that kind of
yeah,
product?
and I think for context, I'll like illuminate a few things, right? Like Yahoo Smash Rivalries, I think we spent about like 40 to 50K, and like they were extremely happy at the 25K concurrent viewership we had for the weekend, right?
Yeah,
I think Blur and I know of events that spend $200,000 for 3,000 viewers, right?
right.
Um,
Our viewership numbers are going to be good.
yeah. So our viewership numbers are good. Granted, the game isn't the most sexy for sponsorship activations, but I mean, I'd say year one proof of concept, maybe 250 to 500, and then we can potentially hit the seven digits on year two and year three. That's my opinion.
Don't disagree. So I usually say a good year one. I'm more conservative. I'd say 150 to 250. I'd say year 2 and 3, you should be really shooting for 400 to 500, and then from then on, you're talking about million plus sponsorship sales
Yeah,
easily.
and like keep
Maybe
it.
probably 2 to 4 is realistically like what you get up to. You probably don't get more than that unless the scene grows to a degree. But but look at what we're talking about there, and versus the current amount of sponsorship sales in the scene, which is like literally zero, and it's like that's the difference between making money and not making money, man.
Let
And
me add this, right? Like, because if we were to have a conversation on Twitter about something like commentator pay, right? Like, if somebody said this commentator makes $1,000, somebody's gonna have the discussion of like, oh my gosh, that's more than seventh place. Like, we're fighting over pennies of like of what people get. Like, people argue over $500 here and $1,000 there, right? Like as if it's like a make or break, right? And maybe in this like pie we have, but like I think what Blur like you're highlighting here, and what I'm trying to highlight is like we're like bickering over crumbs, like when like
over nonsense.
yeah
We literally spend our days reading twit longers about petty bullshit. Well, sometimes it's very important and stuff, but a lot of times it's petty bullshit, right? What we're reading online nowadays, like Parappa complaining about Summit, or like it's like this is what people are spending their fucking mental energy on, right? Their neurons are being spent on absolute nonsense right now, right? Um, Instead of like, yo, how do we make some goddamn shmoney? And it like the I'm not just, and I don't think like the sales is where it ends. By the way, how much of a Twitch deal could you get for that much minutes watched, right? Like for broadcast rights, how much could you get from the ticket sales of the finals event, right? How much money could you get from merch? What if there's a Patreon associated with this thing? What if there is a Twitch sub product for the channel that this thing runs on? Like, you add it all up, and it's not an insignificant business. Now, is it a humongous business? Is it one that's like hyper profitable? No, it's like a moderately sustainable business that like just mostly pays the people that work in it, and like kind of sustains itself and makes it seem better. But it means our commentators get paid, and it means our prize pools go up, and it means that the TOs that we're talking about on that list have jobs, right? So it's like, bro, all those things are actually attainable by us, in my opinion, right? So I'm more of like a, we could actually be doing this, but we're not making the big plays. But I think here's the rub, Tafo, and this is where I get more accusatory. Here's where I get more accusatory. There is an accountability baked into what we're talking about, right? When for years you run tournaments where you aren't paying your staff, you aren't growing your business, and you aren't paying your commentators, and the TOs are making no money, etc., etc. The whole thing is making no money, right? And you're not making these big plays to grow your business. Like, at some point, that's on you. You know, at some point, that's like, you have to take some accountability there, right? It's not just that, like, okay, awesome, let's give a pat on the back to every TO that's ever existed. It's more like, bro, because people have gone in the way for many of these bigger and better ideas, and because many of them haven't happened or made those big plays to grow the scene, now the commentators don't get paid, right? Now the players aren't getting paid. Now, you know, like it all ends up mattering in terms of the ecosystem. So there's an accountability there. And similarly, like one of the bigger issues in the community is like the conduct issues, right? Because no one wants to go out there and actually like work on it, and most people just don't want to deal with it for good reason. Um, like it doesn't none of it gets solved. Like one of my great disappointments about quote unquote Smash leadership, I don't want to call it that because no one's actually doing anything. Um, is that no one's doing anything about. Like I think the hidden story that I'd be ashamed to tell people outside the scene is I think we are less equipped to deal with conduct shit than we were a year ago, and that's after all the summer shit happened. And I think largely all that stuff in the summer happened, and for the most part, people just went welp, and they moved on. Nothing changed. Like I don't think anything fundamentally changed. I don't think you can like fix the evils of the world or anything, but realistically, you're supposed to like make our reactive solutions better and make our preventative ones exist, right? Like I don't know, do something. But there hasn't even been that much discussion about it. Like realistically, like there's been discussion on Twitter, but like among people who actually like need to make the changes and like they run the events, I don't think there's any like substantive stuff that happened. At least for me. So I don't know. Like that's disappointing, and I think that's where it comes. That's where the accountability comes in. It's like, look, at the end of the day, guys. Like, if all you guys want to do is run your own events, then and nothing else, and nothing more ambitious, and there's nothing more out there for y'all, then I think that's sort of shitty, because those events are run by people who don't get paid, right? Like, and you're not, and by not scaling your business, not by not making those decisions, you're like losing all those people the opportunities those things are afforded. You put yourself in a leadership position, but you're not taking the actual steps that need to be taken to like get the people around you to grow and become better, right? So I don't know. Where's the Sigma grind set, bros?
I mean, I think the large part, right? I mean, and this goes back to it, right? Like, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, you can't really blame a person if like they come into the scene, like the fact that they're even running events, right? Like, that's a good thing, right? It's just we lack people that really want to go beyond that.
That's not. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's sort of a good thing.
It's a bad. It's a okay. Let me put it this way.
If we didn't care so much about Smash and we didn't like these people so much, and someone told you that, hey, there's this business that doesn't really pay its employees and doesn't pay anyone that's a part of it, we'd be like, oh yeah, that business doesn't deserve to exist, right? Like that's fucked up. But for some reason, because it's Smash and we care about it so much, we're like, yeah, it's fine. Like, come on, right? And it's like, bro, if after like 10 years you've made no steps to make that happen, that's fucked up. We could do better. And I'm literally talking through some of the ways that it maybe could happen, but everyone's been unwilling to take those steps. So it's possible.
I think part of it, like, I don't know. I feel like, let's say a person volunteered, right? And they volunteered 24 hours in the weekend to do pools, right? And they, I don't know, like, would you give them 15 an hour?
15 an hour to do, yeah, sure. And that's better than zero.
Right.
Fuck it.
So let's say they get 360, right? Like, then you get into the philosophical argument. And granted, this might be like the pie just needs to be bigger all across the board. Like, they get let's say they get $400 for the weekend, right? Which is probably going to be more than 7th place at most majors, right? But they did a lot of work, right? Like, it kind of, I don't know what it is, and maybe I'm just like playing boogeyman too much, in the sense of, on one hand, like, I think if people realize that a lot of people don't get paid, they get mad. But if they get paid like too much, like even if that like wage is low, like people would get mad. And it almost feels like there's like no winning.
There is winning. You know what winning is like? I could tell you. So Evo, for a long time, was making money hands over fist. Evo was making shit tons of money, unbelievable amounts of money, relatively, especially compared to the rest of the scene. But the amount they were paying commentators was really low, and they weren't paying their judges at all. Right? You know what happened? people complained that the judges weren't getting paid because, of course, they should get paid. They were just getting a shirt. That's a fact. While Evo was making literal millions of dollars. And then the commentators kind of all stood up for themselves and finally got paid more, right? And it's like, that's what worries me. Is like, if any of these events in Smash got to as big as Evo was, would they actually pay their people? Right? Like, I'm not even sure about that. Right? Like, I think they would. I think Robin and Sheridan would. I like those. I think those guys would actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, their issue is that they're not like bringing in like money to get there.
Bucks.
They're not.
That's their problem.
Yeah,
that's their problem. But they're also not doing a lot to make that happen. Again, like I said, right? And none of us are. So I include myself in that camp. But like, more so, there's definitely like if Alex Strife, who was in a leadership position, would he have paid his people? Hell no, he wouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying the winning solutions do happen. It's like, okay, well, now you have a big event that's making a lot of money where the people get paid. And Evo's a great example, right? The FGC is smaller than the Smash community, like by every statistic, right? There's no statistic you can point to and say the Smash community isn't bigger. And that's been true for a long time. But they still had an Evo and we didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Evo was their baby and they deserve credit for that. They had an event series that got so big that its viewership numbers were insanity, and they eventually sold to PlayStation/Endeavor, right? Like, we never had that. Why haven't we had that? Right? Why haven't any of us scaled our businesses to the point that it got to an Evo size? Why? What's stopping us from doing that?
Because everybody wants to be their own Evo.
I guess everyone wanted to do their own Evo in the FGC, but Evo was still good enough that it became bigger than all of them.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not like CEO like was not trying, but Evo was just bigger, right? You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
As much as we like to shit on Evo, it's like they still did the damn thing, and they built their thing to be bigger than anyone else. Yeah, they didn't collaborate with anyone, and they did a lot of other shitty stuff. But nonetheless, like, that's kind of what I'm asking for. It's like Evo made a lot of big plays to get to that point, but I don't see why Smash hasn't had that and hasn't had that level of growth within its events, like, at all, like, even close, right? It should have by now. We should have an Evo of our own, effectively. Evo had devs working with them, bro. Gamerad, I literally coordinate a lot of the deals with regards to that. It's a lot less money than you think. Like, that is not why Evo is what it is. The ticket sales are why Evo is what it is. Like, Evo, like, sold a shit ton of tickets. A lot of people went to Evo, and that's where most of their revenue came from. And that's the exact way we make most of our revenue, right? Also, Evo had, like, big sponsorship deals, which none of us seem to be able to do. And that's a problem.
That Joey actually, like, the opposite problem with Joey was Mr. Wizard, who, the stories I hear about Mr. Wizard is that he never undersold sponsorships, right? And as many, I don't like Mr. Wizard for a bunch of reasons, but like that's the one thing he like was good at, right? He never undersold Evo.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind a few more, not Mr. Wizard types, but most like of the vein of being aggressively capitalist in that way, right? Like, maybe a little less softballing and actually going out there and trying to build it as big as you can. You know what I mean? And Freddie Bones, part of the reasons we're bad sponsorships because most of our events don't deserve very much of them, is the truth. It's like they don't. But that doesn't mean like collectively coming together and being represented by one sales agency can't work. Like, stuff like that. Like, these are lower scale ideas that somehow haven't happened yet, you know? Like, get a sales agency if you're so bad at it. Do something. Do something to make some money so you can pay your people. You know, if you don't want to, at least think about the people that you should pay, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Low-key wishful thinking about Nintendo was going to change and finally care about press matches so much damage. Yeah, to a degree. I think it also lit a fire under people for a long time. I think people thought that there was an end to the like there was a pot of gold and the rainbow, and that made them like work on Smash despite not making money, and that kind of made us a lot of good content in that way. But I also think that like it made them feel like they weren't the ones who had to change and fix things, right? Like Nintendo was going to come in eventually, and that would solve all our problems. But yeah, no, it didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think the large part is like, yeah, Nintendo exists, right? But like, I think another part of it that I think I keep hammering is that in spite of Nintendo, like, I don't think we reached our peak in terms of the way we monetize and grow. Nintendo
Yeah,
will,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just a part of the ecosystem. It's like, yeah, they exist, but there's also, like I said, ideas which fix that problem, right? Like the clone idea where you reverse engineer the game. Like, if that is such an absurd problem, which it is, we can fix that too, right? Like, there is nothing we can't overcome. Like, everything is overcomable, including Nintendo, right? But yeah, we just have to do it. So, and they all come with their downsides. So I'm not saying they're all 100% sure shots, but I'm pretty sure they are. Like, I don't know. If someone did a really good reverse engineered version of Melee, I think it would do well. I really do. And then similarly, I think that if someone did a Smash coin and got it adopted and made all the TOs sign on and have had like good agreements with influencers and stuff, I think it would do well too. And I think Fizzy could be more aggressive with monetizing his stuff than he's being now, even. And similarly, like, I think a circuit could, if people got their heads out of their asses, it could happen. But yeah, all these things would do a lot for us. But yeah, I don't know.
should we go to audience questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we will see. We'll give it a little bit of time while we wait.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's really funny while we like wait for questions?
What's up?
I will forever have the W on IBDW, Rishi, and none.
Are you 1-0 against them or something?
Yep.
Nice.
And then every time I go into IBDW stream, see, I don't mention it. He will mention it himself and own himself every time I go into Cody's stream.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got one from the Shumet. Do either of you know of anyone who has explored the idea of remaking Melee? I guess the proposal that you made.
Yes.
I am aware of people who have explored the idea. I don't know like how far they got though.
Not very far.
What about the biggest Hail Mary? Trying harder to open a dialogue with Nintendo. I think thematic.
We've had a dialogue, bro.
I think thematically.
The dialogues, they hate us, bro. What do you want? We've talked to them plenty.
Yeah, I think thematically they're also very slow, and you kind of believe on the carrot of the stick, but like little things can delay things by a year. Just like small contract things, just because you're non-responsive and there's so much approvals that the whole process is just really slow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I see this a lot where people think like, oh, what if we just talk to them? I'm like, we haven't talked to them for like our entire lifespan. There's never been. They bother us. We wish they didn't talk to us. You know, like, this happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see it. But not the talking that's the problem. It's what's being talked about, namely cease and desist. That's you know, they're not pleasant conversations, my guy.
What do we think about Golden Guardians getting involved with the scene? Has it done anything to encourage other orgs to sponsor players?
I hope so. I mean, it's nice. We'll take it. Like, they're making some content. I do like content. I think content's cool. And they sponsored a handful of our players. Pretty sweeto bonito. I think they're gonna run some events maybe, and so yeah.
I mean,
very nice. I mean, I got no complaints.
I mean, it's hard because I don't have extra kind of like insight into it because like my org like Smash like at a staff level, so like we have SFAT and Void, and like we're pretty happy with them. And Pew Pew's been on staff for a while, So yeah, I mean, it hasn't really shifted us to get more players, I guess, if that's what people are getting at. Um, is this is Mango the goat now? I think your definition of the goat here is like, to me, like the analogy I can think of is like, what do you think about LeBron James's career versus like Michael Jordan's career, right? And like, at what point does longevity outweigh like a period of dominance? Like Michael Jordan winning 6 championships in like a 8 year stretch, where 2 of the years he was playing baseball, essentially. Like, do you value that more over like a 14-year kind of thing, where like of like top 5 performances, right? Like, so I think that's what it really boils down to. And whatever definition you have of longevity of like really, really substantially good play versus like a smaller period of dominance, and to what extent you value each is going to be the answer to your question.
Yeah, I don't want to delve into the basketball too much because I think I have Michael clearly above LeBron, but nonetheless, I think Mango's a goat. Personally, for me.
Yep.
And I had Armada as my goat, and I have now Mango as my goat. So, and I think for reasons you guys can understand, he's just been doing it long, and he's arguably the best player in the world right now. That's a big deal.
But if
It's
LeBron won
like
like if LeBron won like 2 more championships, then like that'd be like the Mango equivalent, right?
maybe I don't know. Depends how he wins them. But yeah,
Um, have we thought about doing the point system with slippery rank points that you also win from major?
yeah, sure, bro.
I mean, I don't think anyone's really thought about it that hard, right? I mean,
I've thought about it pretty hard. But he look here's Nafasa brings up a good point. Is like why not just have it be a point system instead of like the more grandiose idea? And I think that's always been a good point. Um, and to skip to Kadorn's question of like how would the Blur 2021 rankings process go? I think I really want there to be a new PGR. I think it's really bad that there isn't one. I said as much on Twitter. Those guys are great. Maybe they will do one, and I hope they do. Um, but overall, I really don't like the subjective system overall. I want to say I've talked about it on here before, but um, I don't think it's a great way of incentivizing attendance. I think, like, I mean, freaking Mango and Zane aren't even going to Riptide. I know it's like some family engagement for Mango. I don't even know what Zane's excuse is, but like, bro, you
Mango's
don't even
going
have
to
them.
Mango's
Yeah,
going
there's
to the
some.
next one though.
Is he going to Low Tide City or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah. He asked me
Yeah.
to go with him.
Yeah, well, they better fucking go, bro. There's no tournaments. Like, there's not even like if you're a professional Smash Brothers player, you better go. Dude, being a Smash Brothers player is so cushy. You just don't play melee. That's like the key. Like you enter something once every like 2-3 months, and that's it. Like you look at other games, they're grinding their hearts out. Like I guess they're streaming, I guess, but like it's not just a COVID thing. Like before that, like you'd see professional Smash Brothers players not enter anything for 3-4 months at a time, and I think the subjective system lends to that a lot. Like people get punished too hard for losses, so they don't want to enter. I think point systems are just way better. And in terms of incentivizing attendance and making people go. But yeah, bro, IBW's out here grinding 10 hours a day, but doesn't enter a single event. I'm saying, bro, they just keep saying it's the off season. I'm like, yo, you guys gotta enter. You gotta enter. You gotta enter.
Um, yeah. I mean, I think I mean, it's hard, right? Like, so like I understand where PGR's coming from with like COVID and everything, right? Like they don't want to encourage extra events that can promote unsafe like environments, but at the same time, like,
Bro, that's such a self-important thought, right?
yeah, uh,
Like, you think you're so important that you're gonna like just make a ranking system, bro. Like, it's not that big a deal. Just put some numbers up. Stop making Zayn as rank 6. It's kind of embarrassing, you know. Like, like encouraging attendance, all this crap. It's like half of what the PGR does is discourage attendance. Like I explained. Like I don't know if it's encouraging shit.
And
Just make a ranking.
you could just do like a top 50, right? Like if 51 through 100, no matter how you spin it, is going to be really hard to like really figure out. Like you can do a top 25 or top 50, right? And I'd be happy with that. Understanding that's a pandemic year.
Right. And Low Tide City and Main Stage, almost everyone's gonna go. So it's like there's results out there, right? You're not encouraging or discouraging shit. They're gonna go anyways. Literally, the registration is already up, and pretty much everyone's gonna go. So it's like the logic doesn't hold. It just doesn't hold. And then there's all the online events, which I think should still count and stuff. But point is, it won't be a perfect system. The old years weren't perfect either. Like the idea of like, oh well, how are we going to rank European players? We did a shit job of ranking international players before, anyways. We just kind of put them on there on random spots. Like we just kind of like threw them on there like a random number. We had really no way of justifying it.
I did top 100 I did top 100 in 2013, where our only tournaments with like cross pollination were like Evo, Apex, and like Zenith and like ROM.
Yeah, and okay, if you really care that much, make an NA only ranking and then make a regionalized ranking, whatever. If that's what you really care about, fine, no problem. But it's not like the other years had it perfectly regionalized anyway. We literally just basically put people in random spots with no justification because there was not enough results in the past, and that's what we do now. Like it's not that different. There's legitimate land results. What's the difference? What's the problem here? I don't understand. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Blur's mad.
I'm always mad. I don't know. This stuff matters. Kinda. Like I said, I told them, like, hey, if you guys really aren't going to do one, confirm that for me, and I'll just make my own ranking system. I don't know how I do it. I could do a whole panel thing.
With you can do it with blackjack and hookers.
I could also just do a panel of one and just write my literally make a fucking blog post where I rank people based on my opinion and say fuck all y'all. This is the official ranking now, the official Blur ranking, and we can just roll with that. Like
I mean, that's literally what I did with Red Bull on the quarter release. Like when I did the top 25s.
You just did it, right? It was just you.
Yeah. And then the summer and the yearly I did as a group effort, but I did the spring and fall on my own.
Yeah. And if people don't like it, be like, tough shit, bro. It's better than having nothing. I don't care. Or you can have a baby panel just so I take less heat for it because someone's gonna be mad about it and do it that way. But it's not that hard. Like it is hard doing it right and doing it their way. I like how they do it. I would prefer it if they did it. But Kadoran says he'll volunteer. Like we get a panel of 10 together and just fucking do it. Like I'm pretty tired of it. It's been a year and a half of no ranking. It's like literally our ranking like is so wrong right at this point. I don't understand. I don't understand what I'm looking at anymore. So yeah, if they legitimately 100% confirm they're not going to do one this year, then I'll just do it, and it won't take me that long.
I'll bring the blackjack. You can bring the hookers.
And special offer: if anyone wants to pay to be on the list, I'm bribable, 100% bribable. 1K to get on the list. Anyone in chat?
Oh wait, that's so worth it for me. I'll pay you $1,000.
Yeah, but like, there's like for every rank, the price goes up.
Yeah, I don't care. Give me 50th.
All right, 1K, easy, baby. Zuppy, you want to be on? All right.
Do you want Tafo coin? I can give it to you in Tafo coin. It's a commodity that's been growing.
Hell yeah, give me the Tafo coin.
Like I made $26,000 in like the past like 2.5 months on Tafo coin.
How much should be number one? Space Animal Style, that would actually cost like 20K.
No, 50.
50? 50K.
Yeah. Why are you underselling it?
Dude,
we literally just talked about it.
You're right. You're right. 50K. 50K Space Animal style, and you got it.
100K
It'll
if you've never made the top 100 before.
100K if you never made the top 100 before. Damn. Someone would actually. That's a better investment than like paying out the ass of your own money to get into Summit. Because now you're ranked number 1 in the world, and every sponsor would be like, "Damn, number 1 in the world."
And then you will by default be invited to the next summit.
220 mil. Oh, I'll take 220 mil if you got it. But yeah, I don't know. We really need rankings. I'm so confused at what's going on in the Smash scene. I want to give people a break because I know no one's like doing anything partly because of COVID because there's not much to do. But it's like there's LAN events happening now and things are kind of opening up. I don't know what's going on with the Delta variant. I don't get it. Apparently, people aren't taking the vaccine. So it's possible we close down again. I don't understand. But it's possible it just opens up and ends. So I can't tell. People gave me a lot of shit a while back for predicting that we wouldn't be back to
2023.
true normal until late 22 or early 2023. I don't look that crazy anymore, do I? Like those people, what are they? How they like me now? You know, I don't like gloating about a terrible pandemic.
And I feel like we even mentioned about like a mutation could happen.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, it's possible. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to think we're not going to be back to normal for another year. Like, in fact, I don't know. It still seems like it might be right. I hate to say it. Now we're gonna have events. Like, we're literally gonna have events, but I don't think it's gonna be like, people aren't gonna be back in offices. I don't feel like until at least mid next year.
At least.
And who knows? With Delta and stuff. I don't know. I'll look real dumb when we're not back until normal until 2030. Don't say that. Just give me the 220 mil and don't say that, Space Animal style. So.
We might never technically go to true normal. We might have to constantly take booster shots, right?
I mean, we're gonna have to take booster shots, but does that mean we're not gonna go back to true normal? Do you think like the 30% of people who are just not gonna get vaccinated are just gonna fuck us all over?
Like, just let's put it this way: if they haven't got the shot now, like, at what point will they?
Oh, I mean they won't, but I guess you could maybe if a vaccine mandate passes, but I don't see that ever passing in this country.
How's that even enforceable? Like, LA County has like said they're not gonna. The police department or sheriff's department hasn't said like it's like too much resources to like really enforce it. Yeah, I mean, and then it's just gonna keep mutating in the 30% of the population, right? We're on Lambda now.
There's a Lambda now?
Yeah, look it up.
I don't want to look it up. It'll make me mad. You're telling me there's a goddamn Lambda now?
Yeah, there's a Lambda.
But here's the thing.
I don't know how much more worse it is than Delta.
If what you're saying is true, we're all just gonna die. Because if it keeps mutating, it just gets stronger with every mutation. You're aware of that, right, Tafo? It gets more resilient, it gets better, it gets stronger, more contagious. That's how these mutations work.
I mean, isn't it kind of like why like we have to take like a flu shot every year?
Yeah, but it's like the super flu.
I mean, could be. I mean, my view. I mean, this is me naively saying it. Is that I hope it doesn't get to that point. My gut feels like it's not going to get like to a point where it's like a one-touch death. Like, hopefully, I could be wrong.
But Dark Dragoon saying that Lambda is straight up worse than Delta. Delta is straight up worse than Vanilla. Vanilla's the OG. I think they're just gonna get worse, right? Like that's the whole point, right? The worst versions have a better chance of surviving, and so they become the most prominent one, right? That's like how it works. That's how mutations work, which is why like it's important to like nip it in the bud ASAP before it turns into a monstrosity, before we have a zombie apocalypse.
Can we call that the blur strain?
Oh, Dark Dragoon actually said the exact opposite. I misread it, but hey, you know what? Point is, get vaccinated if you haven't. I don't know, shit. I don't really know how to change the mind of those people. Is it possible just having 30% of the people in a country be dead ass stupid is enough to crumble society?
30% just like if we hypothetically pulled Iran, 30% is like almost 1 in 3. That's a lot of
That's
people.
that's enough. But here's the thing: maybe that's because we're running the wrong system of government. Like the only like if 30% of people were dead stupid in a monarchy, that's fine, right? Like as long as the king knows what's going on, and as long as he's like taking care of things. An oligarchy, it's fine. Let the peasants be
All right,
stupid.
who do you trust to run the monarchy?
Me,
I don't know why I even ask these questions anymore.
me, obviously
Would you trust me?
more than the current democracy.
That's not
See if
really
it,
that's not really saying much.
look, if Tafo became king, we'd fix climate change. Blur would be prime vizier. I'd have a cushy life. I would be an oligarch up the ass. I'd be like who's the Russian guy? The
Poutine or
No, I'm talking about the in history. Starts with R. Rasputin. I'd be Rasputin. I'd be making shit happen in the background.
I
You know,
CLG would still not be saved, but I
CLG
try.
would be even worse at League of Legends somehow. And the melee scene would get like nice like stipends randomly. Like melee would be huge with a monarchy. Just if one of us was running it, you know. So I don't know. Sounds like Tavo. If you were the king, I would have a dope life. I assume, right? My
Yeah,
life would be 10,000 times better. And you're telling me a monarchy is all that bad?
yeah, you'd be the court jester.
Well,
Right.
yeah. Well, I mean, I, prime minister is a better role, but the hand of the king. Make me hand of the king, bro.
I don't know.
Oh,
You constantly give me good laughs.
hand of the king. I want to be the hand. Though I guess the hand always dies.
Yeah, the hand.
Um, so I don't know. So if it's true that 30% of people being dumb in a democracy is enough to like crumble society and cause it all to end, that's not a very good system, right? That's a pretty bad one. Why are we cool with that? Maybe democracy is bad. Ever thought about that?
Anyway, do we have any other closing thoughts?
One closing thought on that. I have watched as the Afghanistan stuff has come out. This relates to what we were just talking about. Afghanistan had come out, and everyone's finger waving and giving like we should have never gone in there. I remember living in this country when there was a 95+% approval rate for invading in Afghanistan. So the same people I'm watching were probably for it. You know what I'm saying? So another commentary on democracy. What the fuck? Maybe the plebs know nothing. Maybe the plebs know nothing. We were 5 years old. Hey, it's not our fault. We were too young. I'm just saying that the people who are saying we should have never gone in there, almost universally, clearly wanted to go. What's up with that? I'm not saying my name on the ballot. Space Animal Side. We already talked about how I don't want to make big plays. I'm too scared. I'm a scared boy. I got a lot of single player games to beat. That's what I'm focused on. I don't know. Final thoughts. I hope Smashers get off their bum asses. And we grow the scene or something.
That'd be
Or
nice.
something. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to see progress. But if it never happens, Mango, mango, mango. Mango's Egg's pretty fun to watch right now. Whenever it happens every 4 months. Pretty nice.
It's pretty nice. Pretty good.
Pretty nice. Pretty good. Slippy's pretty cool. I love Slippy. So, it could be worse. Could be better. Could be worse. Mighty Falcons' Slippy rank can't change the game.